All right. Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the July 25th, 2024 Historic Preservation Commission meeting. This is a regular meeting of the Montclair Historic Preservation Commission. Notice has been given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by posting a copy of the notice on the first floor of the municipal building and by sending a copy to the Montclair Times, the Star Ledger, and the Herald News. We are also being broadcast live on Channel 34 and Montclair TV and remotely streamed on the YouTube channel. So I will ask Zana to call the roll, but first I'd like to officially welcome our three new members. We have Scott Mixer, who is not here tonight. We have Zena Floyd, who is here, and we have Kevin Pierre, who's here. So welcome. It's a commission, and we do a lot of work on this commission. So if you want to volunteer now, you can. Roll call, please.
Chair Bennett,
Present.
Vice Chair Graham,
Here.
Mr. Remnitz, Mr. Rooney,
Here.
Mr. Sweeney,
Here.
Mr. Giuliano, Mr. Pierre,
Present.
Mr. Mixer, Ms. Floyd,
Here, present.
Ms. Talley,
Here.
and I am here, and Mr. Smolin.
Here.
Okay, first order of business is approval of the minutes of June 20th, 2024. Does anyone have any changes, or amendments to the
No.
minutes?
Just the spelling of the word school.
Well, the roll call, unless I'm mistaken, Jerry Sweeney, you were absent, but Janice Talley was, you were here, weren't you?
I had this sense I was here, but I don't remember, I thought I had missed it, but all these things seem
I believe you were there.
fresh to me, so,
Well, that was that Jerry was here and Janice was here.
yeah, I was here.
So tonight, Mr. Giuliano, Mr. Reimnitz, and Janine Bauer are not here.
And Mr. Mixer.
And Mr. Mixer, right. Does anyone, nobody else?
There was,
Go ahead.
Yeah, and I have that spelling change on page 3 at the bottom, schools, as 2 O's, just like Woodman.
Okay, and is that it, Jerry?
That's it.
Mike?
no, that was it. for me.
I had a couple of changes. On page 2, line 51, just to add that it's a beautiful house and should be restored and not demolished. If you could add "and not demolished" to that. And then on old business for 20 Church Street, I have a couple of sentences. The second paragraph, line 61, if it could read, David Cusimano, the applicant, presented the revised plan with a revision date of June 13th, 2024. There are 3 storefronts in the facade. 2 will be stripped to expose the original brass. The most western storefront will be lacquered steel. Those are just additions to it. And then line 67, the bulkhead will be replaced with the marble material presented to that was the Design Review Commission, I think. It was here? Okay.
They brought it.
All right, my mistake. I tried to watch the meeting today and couldn't. And then on page 3, on line 97, it says, well, this is the 169 Cooper Avenue. The commission decided that the subdivision would not impact the character of the proposed historic neighborhood, which is what is in the recommendations. So if you cross that, has no comments on the proposed subdivision. And we have the schools, just a spelling change. Okay, any other? No? So I guess the 4 people can vote on it that were here. So do we have a motion to approve as amended?
Motion to approve is amended.
Second.
Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do you want me to send that sentence to you that, on page 2?
Yes, please.
Yes, I'll send that tomorrow. Okay, thank you. So we do have a change, not a change, and I went on to the application for 16 Pleasant Avenue.
Oh, do we do resolution?
Oh, well, I thought it was just, yes, but this is just a change for, because of the agenda.
I see.
All
Sorry,
right.
Apologies.
So the resolution, if you look at the minutes, it says that 16 Pleasant Avenue was to be heard tonight, but it's actually not going to be heard tonight, so if anybody is here for 16 Pleasant Avenue, it will not be heard tonight. But there is a letter in the file, in the folder, that says it will be, I don't know exactly how, when it's going to be heard, because Janine won't be here in August, and it was going to be moved to September 17th, and then,
Are you referring to a letter in the file?
yes, that it's addressed to you. To confirm that I have requested that the above matter be adjourned and taken off the July 25th agenda. It's for the 16, it's for the demolition at 16 Pleasant Avenue.
I don't have the letter in front of me, so.
Okay. So, but Ms. Bauer won't be here in August, so she requested for September 17th, but I would request that it be moved to October 17th, because I won't be here on September 17th.
Well, okay, I think that's something, I mean, did they notice for this? I don't-
Janice,
Well, there was no additional notice.
So we need to have a date. I
Right.
think at this point, let's, in that letter request, what was the date requested in
I'll
that
send
letter?
it here.
September 17th. Let's keep it to September 17th, because I'd like to talk to Janine about the legal ramifications of going to October,
Mhm.
and we need to carry it to a date certain.
Mhm.
So for tonight, let's carry it per their request to September 17th. We will reach out to the applicant's attorney and Janine and say that you won't be here and you want to postpone it till October.
Okay.
And see if that's satisfactory.
Okay.
If not, we'll announce, it'll either be proceed on the 17th, or we'll announce another date at that night.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Yes, very good, thank you. And now we'll move to.
Sorry, Chair Bennett, we also have one more agenda change to item D is not being heard today.
This is the Board of Adjustment referral?
Yes, 48 North Fullerton.
Oh, okay. So, Commission, D,
Yeah,
8D, the Board of Adjustment referral for application 2890, 48 North Fullerton Avenue.
yeah, that's going to be postponed to the August 22nd
Okay.
meeting.
So, we have a resolution. And did you, is it my understanding, I'm sorry, I don't have it here, that there was an additional revised signage that came in?
Well, we received that today, and this is the resolution. I'm a little concerned, this was a resolution that reflected what was heard at the last meeting.
Right.
So my suggestion is, we can review take action on that resolution.
First, right.
First, and then, if you want, I mean, normally this would be a minor application.
Right.
But we can review it tonight.
Yeah,
and then
that
we
was-
can- And we can
okay.
do a resolution.
Okay, so
on
we'll,
the sign separately.
okay, so we can do that under old business.
Okay.
All right, okay. So we have a resolution in front of us, application 2024-05, that's 2024-05.
We did it 05B because I think the first resolution.
Yeah, that- okay.
We now have, this is the second resolution for this project.
Okay,
And
all
then the
right.
sign will be the third resolution.
Okay. So the one thing that I wanted to comment is that the applicant's name is misspelled, so it should be Cusimano. Has anyone had a chance to read this? Go ahead.
Yeah, just two minor changes. Under section 6, there's just an extra bullet point. And then at the end of section 7, you need a period. That's all.
Oh, okay. So any other comments on this resolution? No? So with those amendments, the minor amendments with spelling and punctuation, I have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve as amended.
Second?
So I'll second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So, that is done. Okay. Committee reports. The minor applications met on July 11th, 2024. Application 2024-19 for the patient-friendly pharmacy at 539 Valley Road was approved with conditions. Application 2024-20 for Eau Canary, has that been all straightened out in terms of the signage, where the location is? And
I believe so. I sent you an email, but if it's finalized with you, we can sign that.
okay.
Okay.
Well, there was a question about that, but we have one thing that we have to finalize on that. Application 2024-21, Montclair Pre-K at 49 Orange Road was approved with conditions. The outreach, the Design Consult Committee met at the Upper Montclair Library on July 10th. That was to consult with the Upper Montclair Library Plaza renovation. We met with Ed Robbins, Jesse Summers of Arterial, John Remnants, Michael Graham, and myself. And we reviewed the application for the renovation of the plaza, and they took our comments and worked it into the revised application, which is then sent to the state. So one of the things that we had to do was I had to write a letter of support to the New Jersey SHPO office in support of this project. So I have a copy of the letter that I wrote. I don't know if you're going to want to put it in the, I think
Okay.
I sent it to you, but it's a hard copy.
Okay,
So, then we had a design consult at 608 Valley Road on July 18th. Again, it was John, Michael Graham, and myself. We met with the owner, the architect, and the builder, and it was concerning the application that had been filed. And based on our comments, I know we'll be seeing a revised application tonight, but we'll wait for discussion under the new business. The CLG grant, we had our kickoff meeting this week on July 23rd. It was Janice and Zaina and Paja, myself, Andrew Tigney, and David Reniski from the SHPO office. So we're going forward with that. Janice has all the dates and everything that we need to start our focus on the second phase of the Upper Montclair Commuter District. So I think what is the next step for this, Janice, is?
Well, I still haven't gotten the documents.
Right, okay,
From that
right.
meeting.
Well, it was only 2 days ago.
We
so.
have to negotiate the contract.
Right.
So, which always takes longer than you think. Meanwhile, what we're doing and want to work with you is develop the RFP for the project. It shouldn't be a heavy lift because we've done this before. So that's where we are. And we cannot issue the RFP until we get the executed contract. So that's where we are.
And the completion of this grant is September of '25.
Yeah, usually
Okay.
in the past, they've given us 3 months. So this year, they're giving us a whole year to
Yeah,
get it done.
that's amazing. Yeah. And with that, the only thing I'd like to remind everyone is the Preservation Awards. We have that set up for September 5th at 7 o'clock in this room. If you're, hopefully you'll be able to come. It's a really good, it's a good award ceremony. And we reach out to the community, and we have, I think, very solid awards this year. So hopefully everybody can make it, put it on your calendar. Okay. So I think with that, that is the end of our committee reports. We do have it open for, I'll open it up to public comment now, and if you can keep your please come up and comment on anything that is pertinent to the Historic Preservation Commission, and keep your comments short and concise, okay? So please come up. And just identify yourself.
Make sure it's turned on. The green light should be on.
There we
Yeah.
go. Hi, good evening. My name's Anna Grossman. I live on Essex Avenue, and I'm here today to ask you if you might consider supporting an ordinance for a shade tree commission, so that we can sort of get residents of Montclair back on sort of protection duty of our wonderful tree canopy, and then also protect the existing tree canopy, as well as assist DPW in all the kind of work that they might rely on volunteers for, following up on permits, following up on replacements, education, anything and everything tree canopy related. And in particular, heritage trees. They have historic value, they have environmental value, there's a real crossover there. I think Montclair's historic character is hurt and harmed by tree felling in general, and we're seeing more and more of it. And I know that it comes up in planning board meetings and zoning board meetings, and also here, the issue of trees. So that was one thing I came here tonight for. And then the other thing, and this is going to sound absurd because it's Montclair and how could this happen here, but Cape May, New Jersey just passed an ordinance banning the use of artificial turf on private properties for landscaping, which you would think there's no way that would happen here. But just look at the junk mail you get next time in your inbox, and you'll see that there's a lot of companies who are trying to convince people to put artificial turf around their pools and in their backyards, saying it's easier if you have a pet, and it's easier if you've got kids coming out of the pool. And I just ask you to imagine for a second what that would look like if we were, if we actually had that kind of situation that California had, and they had to walk back on it. In California, it was because of drought reasons, and now they're saying, that was a mistake. And in other areas like Cape May, obviously it was becoming so common that they created an ordinance because it violated really the historic character of that particular municipality. Obviously, there are huge environmental problems with artificial turf, and I think that we should really sort of draw a line there. We don't want that on anyone's front yard, backyard, and also daycares. Daycares don't know, they might not know about the impact of artificial turf on children because of PFAS contamination in it, let alone the environmental impact on it. And they're raising kids, and they should be making some environmentally sound choices for their future. And there's 2 daycares I can think of who are using artificial turf in Montclair, and I'd imagine that might increase. So I think that's also another thing that has a crossover with HPC, because it certainly has no, there's no place in which artificial turf would in any way promote historic beauty. So that's what I would like you to consider, and I have sent some information to the town council on those 2 things. And I just wanted to thank you for your service, and congratulations to Mr. Pierre and Ms. Floyd. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Grossman. Thank you for the heads up. And we haven't had to confront the artificial turf situation yet on this board, but I think everybody here lives in town and knows what's going on. So, thank you, but thank you again. And I just want to say that we'll have in our discussion period about the shade tree, we'll talk more about that, but not right now. Anybody else for public comment? No? Okay, with that, I will close the public comment section. And then we are going to look into the revised signage plan, which Ms. Talley has up on the screen that we could all look at. So just some background while she's putting that up. This is a storefront that's being renovated on Church Street, 20 Church Street, and they came before us with a application to remove the historic facade. It's the 1920s building. We went down to look at it and noticed that there was the original brass facade under the paint, and asked them to strip it. First they declined, but then they did, and it is just an absolutely wonderful facade now. What they're looking at, they had, at that time, we had approved the first one, a signage plan, but since that plan, they've decided not to go with what we looked at, and they've sent in a revised plan, which does not have any penetrations into the surrounding mortar and the surrounding storefront, the masonry storefront. These are vinyl letters, stick-on vinyl letters that are, there you go, that will be on the storefront. There's 3 storefronts, and this is the storefront that's furthest to the west. So the other 2 storefronts that are the original will not have any signage on it. There is a blade sign that was approved in the previous application. So they're not going, they're reversing course. They don't want to put up the, remember the 3-dimensional sign that was over the, that, they don't want to do that. They're not doing that, and they're doing this instead. So I know, Janice, you've signage and all the measurements.
Yeah, it meets the 20% requirement.
Okay.
The whole window.
Okay. So we're going to approve this tonight. Is there any, I mean, they're not here to answer any questions, but I think I had gone by, and I think it's a fairly straightforward change. Do you have anything else to add, Janice, in terms of the?
It's very straightforward.
Okay. Oh, okay. Would anyone like to comment on this? No? Okay. Any discussion with the commissioners? No? Stephen, this is the first time you're seeing it. Do you want to say anything in terms of conforms to all of our signage rules, and they're not, and it's vinyl stick-on letters, so.
Yeah, so it's definitely not going to impact any historic fabric.
Right.
And it kind of just adds to the collage of different sign types on 20 Church Street when you look at the whole elevation. So I think it's fine.
Yeah, okay. So how do we do this then? We have somebody makes a motion to approve the revised, and then, okay,
Motion to approve the revised signage plan
for 20 Church Street.
for
All
20
right.
Church Street.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay. Moving along, now we go to 608 Valley Road. This is application 2024-18. This is a C of A application. And I just want to I printed out a couple of images. Do we need to mark this as it's just images of the No, okay, all right. So, just to back up a little bit of history, this is an application that came in for C of A. This building is in the Upper Montclair Historic District. It is considered a key building in the Upper Montclair Historic District. It was constructed around 1920, and it was part of a larger commercial building that has different facades across the ground floor. So I just want the, if you come up, who's going to testify? All right. Just sit at the, make sure and then I'll swear you in to testify. Just raise your right hand. If you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth about this application. You do? Okay. Could you please identify yourselves and your connection with the project?
Yeah, can you all hear me? Yeah, my name is Yoon, and I'm a designer for this project, Storefront.
Can you spell your name?
Yoon, Y-O-O-N. I'm here to speak about the design on behalf of the owner, the business owner. Right.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Frank Hall. I'm an architect consulting on this project.
Okay, thank you. So just to, thank you very much. Just to give a little bit more of an introduction, this is a Tudor Revival style commercial property along the central thoroughfare of the Upper Montclair Historic District. Similar in style to the upper portion of other commercial properties on the west side of the 600 block of Valley Road, the subject property's ground level storefront was altered after the district's period of significance. The following historic character-defining features relevant to the proposed work are the entryway, the Gibbs surround, and the Flemish bond brick. The upper facade, which isn't going to be affected in this renovation, is stucco and half timbering. According to the Montclair Times, it was the site of the Sigler's Bakery in 1916 and Hassler's Bakery by December 1921. This was followed by PJ's Cuisine, arrived in 1980, focusing on off-site catering, which is likely where the opaque wood-paneled storefront was introduced. This was followed by Daichi, Japanese restaurant, around 1989. Another Japanese restaurant named Daiki was recognized for its attractive exterior in 2000 by the Garden Club of Montclair. What I have done is I've just made a couple of pictures of the facade, which I wanted to share with the commissioners from 2013, maybe here. Can you share that? Yeah. Here, can I have that done, Beth? 2013, here's 2021.
Steve,
I wrote the dates at the bottom. Oh, well, I got a lot of 2013. All right.
Which one is this?
The dates are at the bottom. So you can see that from 2013 to 2021, the facade did not change. And then I have some historic photographs from, a historic photograph from 1982. So just pass that down. Because what we're looking at is a facade that was clearly changed from its original facade, and that, well, the storefront facade was changed. And that's what I couldn't wrap my head around when I looked at this. So and thank you, Zana, for looking at, and she dug through and found the application for a facade which was approved but never worked on, or never completed. And that's the information that I shared with you when we came to look at the existing facade and what you wanted to do with it. So with that and that introduction, I'm going to open it up now to the two of you, and if you could walk us through the project and what you hope to do with the facade renovation.
Do we have the PDF available here to?
I don't know.
So we sent after last.
I don't think you're, is your,
Okay, closer.
oh, just come a little closer.
Yeah, if you move the mic, or move the microphone closer to yourself.
Yes. So after last Thursday's visit, we actually updated the package, sort of like respectfully, response to your comments. So I was wondering if you all have that PDF version.
I don't know.
You said revised plans, is that what
Yeah,
That's-
revised
that's-
version.
The plan's here,
Yes.
correct?
Tuesday.
And so your revised plan is dated, what's the date on that?
That was this Tuesday, so 23rd.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're going to have to look at that because I have,
That's the new one.
this is the new one.
Yeah, so
Okay.
they took off the version that
Wow.
had stucco on.
That's in this plan?
Do you,
That's the new one, yeah. That's the one here. What's that?
did Stephen get it? Did you?
Yeah, Stephen.
All right.
While that's being hopefully loaded up, what was significant about the visit last Thursday is that following that visit, there was some more exploratory work done. The builder was here tonight. He uncovered what the limits are of the existing brick on the facade. And there's really very little in the way of existing brick behind that wood paneled facade. It's mostly just a framed wall. The brick that's exposed at around the entrance to the second floor tenancy on the left-hand side exists. That's the majority of it. And there's a brick column that exists on the right-hand side, which is currently exposed. But other than that, there's just a little bit of brick above a portion of under the upper portion of that wood panel facade.
So it doesn't have a bulkhead like a brick bulkhead like the other storefronts?
That's correct.
Okay.
The frame goes right down to grade.
Okay.
In fact, on the left-hand side, at the end of the entrance to, looks like we have the images up there now.
Right.
Can I scroll through them here?
You can zoom in, zoom out. It's just a little slow, because
So I'll just give a little background of what was uncovered at the site, then Yoon can talk about the intention behind the revised design. So we previously had a design where the brick on the left-hand side around the entrance, this is the entrance to the second floor tenancy, and this is the storefront of the first floor tenancy. So this was previously covered by another material. So the design was revised to maintain all of this brick and the limestone around it. Both versions of the design were calling to remove the little skirt roof with the wood shingles on it. What we did in this case is we're leaving the brick, pretty much all of the brick that exists behind there exposed, except for there's a little bit of brick being removed above the first floor storefront here, because at the right-hand portion of that storefront, the brick is missing. There was an air conditioner carved through this brick at some point, and it's a very ragged edge to the remaining brick. So we're just going up a little bit to maintain a clean edge just below this soldier course. There's actually a little metal canopy that you can see on another sheet. There's a cross-section of it, and there's a little bit more brick behind there that you can't see. So that,
I'm sorry, could you just clarify, so you're going to remove a small layer of brick
a small amount of brick just above this portion here.
to match the other side?
Yeah, because right over here, it's missing at that height.
Yeah.
So it would be a very ragged edge, and it would be the difficulty of trying to patch in a very unique and textured brick to match the existing. And also, as Yoon can probably describe, if the height of this storefront that represents this business on the right was much shorter, it would really lack presence. So it seemed to make more sense for it to be just a little bit higher, and the height of it would be at the height of the signage for the other tenancy. But essentially, the point being that what you see here is all the brick that there is to reveal, other than a small amount above here. And this being a cement plaster stucco finish, it's a grooved stucco finish. And Yoon, who's actually the designer of this, can go into more detail about the elements of the design.
Do you, can you pull up, make it larger, that facade in comparison to the neighboring facades, the picture to the left?
The picture to the left.
That-
Let's see. Yes, I think I can. Is that one?
No, I think it's the picture to the, can you go to the left? Yeah, and then down. And then, okay, oh, and then you've got that bank, okay, okay.
And to the left is the bank that's all anodized aluminum from the 70s or something.
Right. Do you have a larger, can you now make it smaller? Do you have a larger picture of the?
Zoom out, as it were?
Yes, zoom out, thank you. I'm just wondering if there's anything that, with that line, coordinates with the line that goes across.
Coordinates with the line of...
That black, that,
Yeah.
in the fuller facade.
Where did my zoom button go? Oh, here it is. It was missing for a minute there.
Maybe the side section? Depicting what that flag
They're looking for how it coordinates
Well, I just,
horizontally.
yeah, I just wanted to see if you had a picture with this, with the full facade, the revised application with the full facade,
You say the full facade, you know,
of the entire building. I think there's, I mean, there were at least 4 storefronts, but,
do we have them? We have
What-
some...
We have the plans in front of you, which picture on the plan?
well, no, I think it was the one that you zoomed in, this one. I just wanted to see how it related to the other.
I think this picture is as large scale, as zoomed out on the building as we get in terms of
Okay.
showing the context. Yeah. Yeah, this is the page.
Yes, but, yeah, there is. I mean, that's what you've just pulled out. I didn't know if you had anything. Yeah, there's that. Okay, thank you. And so, Mr. Wu?
You? Yeah.
Do you want to go into more detail about the finishes?
Sure. Thank you very much for, sending us all this information. I think the rendering from 2014 was extremely helpful. Like, for example, this stone plaque, we never knew like this existed before. So maybe we can start from the top and bottom. So what other thing that we sort of like discover with the rendering and also the builder's help on the site is that, there is a sort of like a datum line top and bottom, which is this soldier, coursings. So this sort of like a frame, what's existing, what's new, and we start from like the top, the soldier course, continue from here all the way there. It's very nicely have like an existing stone plaque that we would like to reuse. And it kind of start, kind of defining our new awning, the black, metal awning here. So we're trying to like align this with the stone plaque here. So you kind of see like it extends from the existing brick there and go all the way there. So it kind of like frames it, try to like work with the existing bricks there. And obviously the material choice is something that we can find from an adjacent building, which is, this bank here, that black anodized metal. And once we come down, I think the one thing that, I wanted to notify here is that the second floor business entrance has been renovated back in 2010 something with a lot of stainless steel materials. They had like this existing stainless signage here. They, sort of like change all the hardware with the stainless steel. So the existing elevation had a sort of like mix and match of 1980s renovation, 1930s renovation, and on top had like a 2010s renovation, sort of like a lot of materials. So we were trying to like kind of consolidate it, respect the existing the materials, which is limestone and brick, and that's sort of like how we choose the new materials for these area. So as Frank was mentioning here, there's a non-existing enclosure remained in place, right? So as of right now, there is some sort of like wood sliding facade right now, and it has no masonry behind it. So once we got it out, what kind of material, what kind of design we need to fill that up to sort of like work with the existing the masonry facade. Obviously, we looked around the layer of existing materials and also the buildings around. So the two things that we were focusing on is obviously the limestone and the brick. And the brick is actually very old, 1916, I think, in your report. We're saying that this is the original the brick that's been like 100 years old. And I've been seeing that the existing mortar coursing is kind of like sort of almost matching the limestone color, and it was very interesting because now we have like a material palette that we can kind of like sort of apply here. So the stucco color here, this is sort of the natural stucco that we sort of did in the first round, more like a gray color, but we are now updating this to match more like a limestone or mortar, something that's existing right next to it. And the other kind of reference, if I can, just move here. I also added some of the existing, the street fabric in terms of the materials. Obviously, the one very close, 600 Valley Road, this is the Chase building that has a very similar, the material palettes. And once we go like around the, the streets, I kind of like sense that there is a lot of like natural mixture of light stone type of materials. And, it's either darker brown and darker, sort of like brown-red colors presented alongside this Valley Road. So that sort of becomes our inspiration of choosing the material. And obviously, as I was mentioning, the stucco colors choose to sort of like match the limestone colors and the other fabrics around the street. And the wood color here is actually, before was much lighter. Now it's much darker. So it kind of like matches to the brick color or the other, darker brown, darker red colors around the street. And I guess the other thing here is that, one of the upgrade modification that we are making is that we're sort of like making this recessed entry condition here. The big reason being is that I actually read the Montclair historic guideline. It was actually explained as one of the existing conditions alongside the Montclair building, which is called double door condition with a very small vestibule. So when we actually went to look at the existing condition, we realized there is really like a double door, right next to each other. So it's only like, 3 to 4 feet with a width of less than 4 feet, which is really not a great experience, non-ADA compliant for the accessibilities and stuff. So we're actually trying to upgrade it to make it, the wheelchair accessible ADA compliant entrances. It was interesting that, I was just checking the Google map of the old Daikichi, the restaurant. It has a logo that is not, ADA accessible building. It has a logo. So our goal is actually, try to remove that and making a greater entrance. And for this fabric, we made it, a choice of the darker gray rather than something to match the sidewalk. And the reason being is because in the second floor entrance, this portion of the curve is existing and it's present in very dark gray color. And obviously we know that we have to keep this condition. We're sort of like trying to make this bottom line to be sort of like a darker gray. So keep it very clean and very consistent throughout the new storefront. And I think the other thing is that obviously the existing business, the window was much smaller. Can't really remember the exact size, but I think it was about 4 by 5 or 6, something like that. And we see an opportunity to make it a little bit larger and make it something similar to the buildings around, around this new business. I think that sort of explains the, the basic design concept. So if you have any other questions,
Before we open it up to questions from the commission, the rounded wall that does that curve, can you explain a little bit more the entryway?
Right. So.
Oh, you say entry funnel.
Yes.
Okay.
So, obviously, this is a new condition we made. And, from here to there, I believe the exact dimension is the 60 inches, which is required for the ADA clearances. So then, the other thing that to notice is that, the streetscape to the building, the property, is not a 90-degree. It's a little bit, slanted. So in order for us to make it this more welcoming and make people to be, kind of like suck into the business more in natural way, instead of doing like either chamfer edge or like, the straight edges, we thought that it would be nicer to make it curve.
And the curve extends up to the glass?
Yes.
Glass is also curved? Okay.
Yes.
That concludes your, is this a C of A that also includes signage? Which is what, the signage that you have up?
Right.
So could you explain what those,
Right.
what the signage
Yeah.
is?
So this storefront actually is 2 entrances for 2 restaurants. One on the left is something called Minoru, and as we explained it before, we're trying to like utilize the existing stone plaque. So we're trying to also use very simple font, something that can work with this, the existing, the Tudor revival style, and something very simple. And in terms of the signage, this is it. We only have a LED backlit. I know we, previously put like a scones and downlights and stuff, but we understand that it's gonna, sort of like harness the existing conditions even more. So we wanted to sort of like minimize the additional attachment to the existing masonry facade. So once we come here, this is another restaurant, and here we're actually intentionally trying to use the signage, not like present here, but we're putting like a small signage with the downlights there. It's really represent the business characters, but also the sort of like respect to the existing, the previous the Daikichi restaurant. So actually the owner has a lot of relationship to the restaurant, and they want to do something similar in their way. And so in terms of the design, we also wanted to try like pay a lot of respect to what was there before. If I see the Daikichi's, the old design before, it's very like monolithic, the color and palette. They never had like a big signage saying Daikichi. It's like a restaurant that people know, people would come. So, instead of putting a very big signage here, we wanted to put like very like thoughtful, sort of like discreet signage, and that's it.
Do you have that in detail? Any further, or is it just what's here? It just looks like a blob to me, I'm sorry.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
I have an elevation drawing, maybe that can help a little. So, as I explained it before, because the property and the sidewalk is a little slanted, I prepared two elevations here. So this is the elevation, you're basically looking at the property like straight. But, because our entrance is then going to be sloped, so I made another elevation. So this is basically, where the door is, and this is the signage that I was explaining before. So the signage only have like one downlight here. It's going to be placed in the side, sort of like a sidewall.
But is it letters? What is it a figure?
It's a Japanese letter.
Oh, it's a Japanese letter?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And it's attached to the stucco?
No, it's attached to the wood. So once the entrance is recessed, it transit from stucco to the wood. So this is wood, and this is wooden door.
Okay.
And the only light is in that recess on that focuses down on the.
Actually, we have two lights, and the one light is the downlights for the logo, but for the pedestrians access, and obviously for the the lights, we have another recessed downlight here, and we're designing, try to be designed this as more like a warm light. So we actually also added the color temperature, which I believe 2700.
On the plans, you have a LED strip light. Where is that?
Oh, sorry about that. So we have a LED strip light on sort of like a recessed to this this wooden bar. In order for me to explain it well, I think we can go to the section. Oops. So we're sort of like putting this, the LED strip bar on top of this wooden the bar.
So it sits behind a
Sits
ledge.
behind it,
and-
sort
okay.
of like washing out the stucco wall. Yeah,
Okay. And so that's it with the lighting,
right.
okay. So you've gone over the materials, the lighting, and the signage. Anything else? Anything else to add?
I believe that's it.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, thank you. So what we'll do now is we'll open it up to questions from the commissioners. We'll open it up to questions from the public. Okay? So where shall we start? Mr. Sweeney?
Thank you. Just a couple questions. First, do you know what's underneath the wood facade?
Nothing. So the way I understood is that, where we switch the existing the wooden sliding facade into the stucco wall, the wall assembly right now, if I can explain this, there is a wood sliding and there's very old metal studs, and there's some sort of like very old walls, mineral walls for the insulation. Appears to be 3 to 4 inches, but as we are like walking through the site, it's very damaged. It's all like soaked. It's very deteriorated.
It's a frame wall.
It's a wood frame
Wood frame
wall,
wall.
and it's not stucco?
It's not stuck.
Okay.
No, and it's not brick. That's
It's
why,
not brick,
that's
yeah,
why we
yeah.
went to look at this on
Okay.
site.
Where
And this-
was the brick column, though? I can't recall where you pointed out that was located.
This right-hand side.
On that
here,
side.
To the right-hand
But-
side of the existing front door.
I thought you mentioned under the wood paneling there was additional brick column, or did I mishear that?
Not a brick.
I may have misheard that, yeah.
Not a brick column, but just a little bit.
Oh, that
height
was-
brick
okay.
over here, where we were just trimming it off basically to where we have a clean line of brick to the right. Otherwise it would be jagged. We'd have to fill it in a way that would never coordinate with the existing brick.
My second question. The fluted texture finish on that facade area covering the windows, is that similar in pattern to any other textured facade in the area, Upper Montclair or West of Montclair?
I would say, if you're asking me if the stucco texture is similar to the existing stuccos around the Montclair, I cannot say it is. But the intent is that, as I'm seeing it, actually the second floor of this building is also the existing stucco facade. It's all very smooth. But here, we're trying to make it more like a textured stucco, so it has a more relationship to a lot of like a stone facade around, on the street.
So the pattern is just a artistic design, is that
I would say
all it
yes.
is?
Yeah, to
Not
make it more
functional.
natural.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, but the answer is, it's not similar to anything else in the Upper Montclair area?
I would say yes.
Okay, okay, thank you.
When we visited on site, Chair Bennett had noticed the ramp in the entryway. Chair, what was the pattern and design?
It was a terrazzo pattern.
Yeah.
Do you remember? And I started to, and I actually stopped by twice, but the door was locked, so I couldn't
It was
see.
a very colorful.
Almost like a
almost-
compass.
Something like, it was pretty dirty. It was hard to see the entire pattern, but it was a sort of a geometric pattern of triangles in a sort of a polychrome palette. Unfortunately, that isn't large enough to encompass the entry that's planned. The entry gets wider than that and deeper than that.
But I believe we thought that was an original element, correct?
I don't know whether everybody at the time thought it was, but it looks like it could be, from other buildings of that era. Just, I don't know how we could actually incorporate that into something that we're trying to make a shallower slope and needs to be wider to provide any kind of handicapped accessibility.
But as mentioned before, we've had applications where, look, we have to balance the interests of ADA compliance and also historic preservation. The ADA guidelines, I don't believe, require destruction of original elements, irreplaceable elements, in order to comply with ADA guidelines. So I think my primary concern here is that we'd be losing a unique, irreplaceable element. I guess my question is there any way to preserve that can this design preserve that original element? Can it be modified to preserve that original element?
I suppose it would have to be incorporated into a larger field that goes, connected to some additional material that goes further to the left and further into the building in order to keep that field of material there.
Yeah, I think it would have to be uncovered. You'd have to clean it and see what the extent.
What the
of-
extents are.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I'm sorry.
I believe the rest of my questions were answered by the presentation. No more questions for now. Thank you.
My question was the same with the terrazzo, because I think that is an original element, and if I had been able to get in, I would have taken a picture to look at it. So I think that's important that you incorporate that into whatever, the entryway. My other question is, do you have an estimate of how many bricks you'll be removing from the top soldier court, across the top?
I can probably help with a couple of these questions.
The builder.
There's another microphone, and I think we'd have to swear you in as well.
Right. So,
Is this
Frank Hall, right?
That's Mr. Hall.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. We have to swear you in.
Okay.
Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth about this application.
I do.
And what is your name, please?
Barry Johnston.
Barry Johnson. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
So,
Barry John.
a couple important things. This entrance has been widened quite a bit, and it's also, not sure exactly how many feet extended into the building, but it is extended into the building. So right now, that terrazzo is inside the building, it's not outside. And the terrazzo only comes out about 3 feet from right to left, and then in about the same 3, maybe 4 feet, if that. It would be virtually impossible for me to even create something similar with those colors and in that pattern in terrazzo in the northeast. There's nobody that I know that does terrazzo here, or even in the city anymore. So, the craftsmanship that exists would be almost impossible to match.
Well,
And-
I think the question was to incorporate the existing, if you need to make the surrounding area larger, was possibly another material.
Recognizing the limitations of
pitch that is very
ADA.
steep.
Right.
So the pitch of the terrazzo is fairly steep. And so the only way that you would be able to do that, to leave the terrazzo existing, would be to come to the top of that pitch and then maybe go flat to the entry door. And some kind of concrete or stone finish around it that would leave that existing. I think it would stand out in not a good way. I don't know the condition of it. I'll go in there tomorrow and clean it up, and we'll get a better look. But I don't see where it fits in. I don't know how to do that. If it was wider, that would work. But it's so narrow, that steep entrance is so narrow that there's not a lot we can do with it. We can't cut it out and move it either. It'll break apart. So, and then getting back to this brick, so this brick here and this brick here is actually a column that's holding a steel I-beam up here, which is holding up the building above it. This soldier course of brick all the way across is in pretty good shape. You come down, I think it's just 2 courses of brick And that's where the I-beam starts. And over here in this area, there's just a big round hole that was busted with some kind of jackhammer or sledgehammer or something so that it could slide the air conditioner in place. I know there's a photo somewhere of the existing condition, and there's a metal grate in front of it that used to be the vent for a regular in-wall air conditioner. So the only courses that would come out would be like these two here, and they stop here. They're not in place anymore. So it's not really much. The these courses here would still exist, along with the soldier course all the way across. And then between this column and this column, there really is nothing. It's just an open space. So if you were to take that framework out, that wooden framework out, everything would stand as it is, and you would just have a big hole. So there's just nothing here to save, except that terrazzo. So.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I think we saw that when we looked at the plans that were submitted, I don't know, 20 years ago or something. I can't remember what they were. All right, Steve, any questions?
The material for the
microphone,
curb,
Steve.
is it going to be the same as the
Steve, your
existing
microphone.
curb? Oops. The material for the curb, is that the same?
The material for
with-
what?
Oh, you mean for the new curve on the new
Yeah.
facade? Yeah, we're trying to match the same look and finish. I believe the existing curve on, the left side, which I believe it's a concrete, but we'll, double check.
We're good to it, right, okay. That was my question.
Thank you. Zena, do you have any questions?
I do. One, I like the idea that you're exposing as much of the brick as possible. That's fantastic. The only thing that I'm a little concerned with, or just not really concerned, just wondering, the color tone of the concrete seems a little, it looks a little busy with the brick and then the lighter beige, it's just, so is it the picture? Because on one of your examples on the other slide here, 628, it had a little bit more of a grayish tone. This feels like it has a little bit more of a yellowish tone. So, I mean, I don't know if it's the picture or if that's what you were going for to kind of complement the red brick.
Are you referring to?
The curve, the concrete, the concrete, yeah.
Oh, the
stucco,
stucco.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the rendering is too yellow.
Okay.
We're actually trying to make it like very creamy white that's more geared toward the limestones and more natural material, not really like yellow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the purpose of the curve was to be an ADA compliance primarily, or to
Are we talking
complement-
about the bottom curve?
The curved
It's for the
stucco,
better
yeah.
access. So
Okay.
if the sidewalk go this way, the building is not like this, but building is actually tilted like that. So
Okay.
we thought, if we just do like a straight edges,
Keep
it's
it
kind of like,
balanced.
very knife edge like, wall condition.
We talked about it as being welcoming, hence the term entry funnel
Okay.
on the drawings.
And stucco is the only material that you had considered for that particular section?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I think it would be fair to say to your comment that the intention was to match the color of the adjacent limestone.
Right.
Irrespective of one being a rendering and the other being a photograph.
Right.
But if it looks dissimilar, it wasn't the intention.
Right.
Okay.
If I'm
Yep.
correct.
Yep.
Thank you.
I have one question I meant to ask. The doorway that goes up to Minoru, is that currently, do you plan on recessing that any further, or will it be?
The only work proposed on the drawing there is to paint the frame, the currently polished stainless frame black.
Oh,
That's the only
okay.
change
So
to
the depth will remain?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Pierre, do you have any questions? Okay, all right. Any other questions? We'll open it up to the public for questions. Oh, yeah, yes, sorry.
Great. I have quite a few comments, but just to step back for a sec, I'm just going to kind of summarize my report that the chairperson already kind of touched on. So 608 Valley is in the Upper Montclair Historic District. I just want to clarify that it is a contributing resource, but it's in particular a key building, a key contributing resource to the historic district. So that means, I'm just going to read right from the report, term key is applied to buildings which possess distinct architectural and historical significance and which act as a landmark within the architectural matrix of the district. So key contributing buildings really warrant, I think, enhanced scrutiny, which is what I think you're seeing from the HBC tonight. 608 Valley was built in 1918. It's Tudor revival. We've spoken about that at length. And also from the 2006 nomination report on the district, they noted that the lack of articulation in the facades and the use of bland stucco facades has cheapened the overall appearance of the district. In addition, many of the older structures have seen their ground floor commercial levels altered in a variety of unsympathetic ways, resulting in the loss of historic fabric. So I think that passage is particularly relevant not only to the existing storefront that we're contending with tonight, but also some elements of the proposed design. Just continuing on with my report, the Secretary of the Interior standard for rehab, standard number 9, is most applicable to this project. That's the one we speak about almost every month, about additions, not destroying historic materials, being differentiated from the old, yet compatible with the materials, features, size, scale, and proportion and massing of the historic fabric. Continuing on in my report, selective probe was done, and we have the results of that within the drawings. I think there's an improvement has certainly been made from the drawings that were originally submitted in regards to comment number 3 of mine, which is about the overall design concept, and in particular the relationship of kind of solids and voids that was being proposed in context with the historic district and the streetscape and the pedestrian experience. I think the drawings have moved, or the design has moved in the right direction. There's certainly more transparency and void in what we're seeing tonight, so I don't think it stands out nearly as much as the original design that was proposed a couple weeks ago. The materials I want to talk about in more details when I get to the drawings, and I just want to also clarify that on your original G001 sheet, there was a reference to alterations to the second floor storefront. Is that not the case?
The area of the storefront that is the entrance to the second floor.
Entrance to the second floor.
Nothing above.
No exterior window treatments, overcladding, no changes. Okay, the double hung windows will remain as is.
Correct.
Okay. So getting to the drawings, I'm on sheet A001, it looks like, and I'll start with detail number 3. Starting at the top left of that elevation, where the menorah signage is proposed, that's an existing like limestone stone band. Does that have any penetrations in it right now?
Have we uncovered enough of that to know that?
The limestone above the second floor entry is existing.
Would you mind grabbing a microphone if we're going to?
Does it have holes in it?
Yes.
Gentlemen, if you're going to speak, would you mind grabbing a microphone for the record? We have to have it on record. Thank you.
So,
what-
yeah, the limestone above the second floor entry is existing.
Okay.
That's an existing stone inlay, I guess you could call it. And that, you know, there are a few holes in that. And then the limestone around the entry door has quite a few holes in it. That's, you know, old plaques and signage and the such.
So staying on the proposed signage above that entry door, how many holes would you estimate are required to mount that new signage and the lighting?
I'm not sure of the, you know, how that's going to be fabricated, whether they're individual letters or whether it's a, you know, a plaque that's an overlay. If it's a plaque with letters on it that's overlaid, there'll be a lot less holes. If each letter is pinned, then you're probably going to have at least, you know, 2 holes per letter.
So like a dozen holes potentially, and that's including, or maybe the wiring would be in addition to that for the lighting? What I'm getting at.
Yes, so you would have a dozen holes. They'd be smaller than the ones that are there now, but yes, you would have that.
Okay. What I'm getting at is if you can look at a design for mounting that sign that's probably just a horizontal rail, 2 penetrations, maybe ideally where there's existing penetrations, you use those, and create as absolutely few new penetrations as possible. I think that would be best for that sign. It's going to look a little less minimalist with that rail, but maybe you can paint it a certain color and it goes away. Continuing directly down from there, you have a mirror finish, so number 8, stainless steel clad glass door. How are you painting that black?
Epoxy,
Epoxy.
an applied epoxy.
Okay. And that would likely require some pretty enhanced maintenance over time, right? As people kick the door and stuff and it scratches and.
I mean, if it was like a regular paint, absolutely, but with an epoxy, it's pretty durable. It's almost like a powder coat.
Okay. I think a better course might be trying to pop off the stainless cladding and just replacing it with bent break form painted aluminum probably. I think you're going to have a really hard time sticking paint to mirror finish stainless, even if you like bead blasted or did some good surface prep. Stainless just doesn't like paint being stuck onto it.
I can also, you know, possibly apply an anodized aluminum, like a heavy gauge anodized aluminum, right on top of that stainless.
So then, just to back out a little more, because I'm getting maybe a bit myopic, the soldier course of brick, is that acting as sort of a lintel for the existing brick facade?
The soldier course is, you know, just above the steel lintel,
Okay.
and it is definitely structural.
And then the 2 courses of brick that are partially existing directly below that are being held or supported right now by what?
The areas that I exposed were in pretty rough condition. There was some mortar missing, quite a few holes. I don't know whether it was just a matter of disrepair or whether they tried to.
Are those 2 courses of brick like hanging, or are they actually
No,
bearing on something?
They're just above the steel I-beam. So they're sitting on the lintel, the steel lintel.
So when you take those out, how is the soldier course supported?
There's going to be a structure put in behind that is part of the overhang.
Okay. And the brick that's there right now, that Flemish bond brick, is not impossible to match if you had to procure a couple additional bricks, right?
It's very
could-
unique.
Is it unique?
It's a vertical
Close
striation
up.
in it.
I could match the size, but color, probably, you know, if I'm lucky, I could get close. It's a very unusual brick. It's a little bit narrow, and it's got a vertical striation, and it's fairly dark.
Have you brought any brick samples to site yet to try?
No,
Okay.
no.
And is there any other brick other than these like 2 courses anywhere in that storefront, like
That I could-
near the sill or
To scavenge from?
maybe?
We're saving everything that's exposed. You know, the column to the left and the column to the right have to remain. The column to the right is also, is going to, you know, get some repair work. And I'm hoping that some of those pieces of brick I can use in that right-hand column. It's not in very good condition
Okay.
as it sits.
I don't know if better for the contractor or the architect, but can someone describe like how this plaster finish is being applied? Is this hand troweled on site? Is it prefabbed off and panelized? What's the plan for that?
I would hand trowel that on site.
Okay. And looking at section detail 1, right at the top of the 40 inches of that hand troweled plaster, how does that 7-inch return work with the profile of the plaster and coming up to what appears to be a flat horizontal sill? It's probably also going to invite water back into the glazing.
These are not actually construction documents.
Yeah.
We would get a bit of a pitch, for sure.
But it's plaster as depicted, or it's a different material? Like, is that going to be aluminum at the end of the day, or?
I'm putting together the construction documents for this. I'm possibly making that a piece of limestone. Again, the same color palette.
Yeah, as the builder, I would certainly like to see a piece of stone there, just to
And what-
make sure that we're waterproof and it stays in good condition.
What type of storefront system are we looking at for that 50-inch tall clear glass? Is this a aluminum storefront, something more exotic? What's that bearing on?
So the framework would be a metal stud frame covered in, an exterior grade substrate, like there are so many that are impervious to weather and water.
Mhm.
On top of that would be a wire mesh and then your coats of stucco. The actual framework itself, I'm looking at a picture that looks very minimalistic, so there won't be a large, like anodized aluminum frame around that. It'd probably be smaller and, big enough that would carry a track to hold the glass in place.
And when you say double pane glass in the call out, the detail note there, does that mean it's a insulated glazing?
Glazing.
Okay, and you're getting a curved insulated glazing unit on that bend?
Expensively, yes.
Yes, okay. Does that have any type of coating tint on it, the glass?
There's typically a low E coating, but you have the option from clear to various percentage tints.
What's the design intent here, though? Is it to be very reflective or very transparent?
Not-
Blue,
not
purple?
reflective, I don't think there's any intention to make it reflective. Just a question of whether it's completely clear or if there's a 10 or 20% gray tint to it.
So completely clear, you mean maybe more similar to some of the other the existing historic glass in the district, in the storefronts, and the display windows?
Correct.
Okay. I think that would probably be the better course for the clear glass. Lighting temperature throughout the storefront is
2700.
2700
It's listed.
every fixture.
Every fixture is listed as
Okay.
2700.
How, at the top of that 50 inches of glass we were just looking at, there's a 4-inch kind of articulated horizontal header there. How far does that poke out from the facade. It's not dimensioned.
It's about 3 to 4 inches.
3 to 4 inches, okay. And where did the metal plate above that come from? That's kind of, I'm not sure what that's acting as, or maybe it's referencing some type of historic element, but it seems a little foreign.
There are glass and metal canopies on other buildings.
In the
A
district?
little bit to the north on this block.
Okay.
And it was a way to separate this storefront from the clearly historic Tudor half timbering and cement plaster above.
Okay. I would really encourage the applicant, and maybe in particular the contractor, to look into that existing terrazzo, which I just became aware of a couple minutes ago. I think it certainly sounds like a piece of historic fabric that's remaining and should be preserved. It's likely cementitious terrazzo from, the Art Deco period, it sounds like. There are, I can think of at least 3 people off the top of my head, 3 contractors in the city that still will do cementitious terrazzo, and that's really the only option for an exterior application. You don't want to use epoxy-based terrazzo outside. We'd have to get a little bit more detail on what that looks like, the extents of it, which were kind of vaguely described, but if it's pitched, what that does to the overall design. I think there's certainly a possibility that a very close match with cementitious terrazzo can be achieved. I personally worked on 7,000 square feet of cementitious terrazzo floors adjacent to Grand Central that we had to match the existing Grand Central terrazzo. It took a couple rounds. It was actually with a company from New Jersey, but eventually we got there, and it looks very similar to the 1913 terrazzo floors.
Are you suggesting we should try to continue the pattern?
I think you should do what's necessary to preserve the existing terrazzo there and incorporate it with the rest of the design. I think there's a lot of examples in Hoboken of these Art Deco facades that have been altered over time, and the terrazzo recessed areas maintained. I think, just going back to my report just for a second to wrap up, I had flagged specifically the porcelain and the gray pebble material, which are proposed in that entry skirt area, as I don't think really having any basis or reference in the historic district. So I think the terrazzo that just happens to be there is a better option to keep and then also continue.
Do you have any concern with the existing terrazzo? As of right now, I don't really know what's the actual existing conditions, but what my concern and question would be, because it's right now is an interior space. We do have the cellar level downstairs. So if we were to just keep the terrazzo as is, I would think that there is no waterproofing, exist underneath the terrazzo. So I don't know I'm not sure if we can even cut it out and see what's underneath, and it's a wooden structure at the ground floor. So that, do you have any concern with the waterproofings? And
I think even 100 years ago they would have done something waterproofing-wise. You'd have to look underneath and see what, if any, water infiltration just has happened from...
Because right now the terrazzo is interior space.
It used to be exterior, though, right? Probably.
The terrazzo? No, it was interior.
Maybe when it was a bakery, that was their Art Deco style entrance, which were very commonly recessed.
Oh, so you think it's interior space? The exterior space.
I think it probably
before.
used to be an exterior space.
Maybe
you may even find a door sill 3 feet in, or the remnants of one.
Yeah, maybe we can take a look at the condition from floor below and see what's there.
Otherwise, I think that covered all my comments. Did you have any questions on the finer points in my report or anything else? No? Okay, thanks.
Oh, okay, so why don't we open it now to questions from the public? Does anyone want to have questions of the applicant? Just state your name.
Oh, excuse me, can you make sure the microphone is turned on? The green light should be.
The green light is on, I think.
Oh, no, it wasn't on. Okay, Lisanne Renner, 42 Godfrey Road. I know you mentioned the key building, and this really is a very significant building. It was the very first building that was in that Tudor strip on the west side of the block. And so it sort of helped set the standard for the Tudor style in the Upper Montclair Business District. It predated the Bellevue Movie Theater, and it was right about the same time as the Tudor-style post office. So it was sort of the standard bearer for that definitive style. So, you know, as you said, I think it needs a lot of attention for preserving the Tudor style there. And so I was curious as to why there was, like, to me, the curved stucco and glass almost looks Art Deco or Art Moderne and very far removed from Tudor. So I was curious as to why that was chosen.
Well, I can, you can talk more about the specific materials, but I've always understood that when we're working with historic facades, we're not trying to mimic or match. We're not trying to recreate more Tudor necessarily on a Tudor building, but to do something that's compatible.
But I don't think it is compatible. I think it's very counter to what was there originally, but that's an opinion. So, so I was wondering how you came upon that particular look.
Yeah, so I guess in addition to that, I would think that it's also more aesthetic decision too, because, you know, as we explained, we're trying to make this entrance more welcoming, but also the ADA compliant, so that, you know, people with a wheelchair comes in. So as you saw in our stucco, the finish selection, it's not as smooth, but it's more textured, which we're trying to make it more like a natural and more like, you know, welcoming feeling. So that's how we derive to the result of choosing, you know, more like curved edge condition other than just, you know, doing the straight edges.
Okay, thank you.
But as I understand it, you mentioned a funnel entrance. Could you explain what a funnel entrance is?
The idea is that a business is trying to welcome their patrons, and that the term entrance funnel is something that I actually picked up from a storefront design specialist who actually happens to be based here in Montclair, doing some work in my hometown with storefront improvements. The idea being that the term funnel denotes trying to create a flow from the sidewalk to the business. Because what the business owner doesn't want is for people to just keep walking past. The business owner wants people to be attracted to or drawn towards the business. And that's part of the idea here too. The handicapped accessibility is part of it, but making it a bit wider. Presently, I believe the recess that was there and the terrazzo that's there is just about wide enough for the entry door. And the idea was to expand that a bit so it's not this sort of tight little entry, but it's a little bit more generous for people walking up to the business. There's a door, and there's also a side panel next to it, where the signage is, which happens to also be what ADA or barrier-free compliance talks about. Is you have to have that 18-inch clear floor space adjacent to the pull side, latch side of the door to allow people to maneuver. But it coincidentally is also part and parcel of making it just a little bit more generous and welcoming.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I just have one more question. Speaking about the funnel and the glass and that whole funnel concept, if we look at a picture of the existing storefront, would you say that the curve of the glass starts at the frame of the existing window? Because it's, and Mr. Smolin brought up the point that you've increased the transparency.
Yeah, correct.
So it's, okay, so,
Yeah,
but you
where the cur-
increase it to the left as you look at the facade.
Right, it's left and right, so it's expanded left and right, and you're right, you're correct. You know, where the curve starts is similar, you know, I wouldn't say exactly at that location, but it's around where, you know, the existing window, the right jamb was sort of like stopped.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, thank you. Are there any other questions from the commissioners? No? We'll open it up for comments then. Jerry, would you like to start?
My general comment is that the pattern of the fluted stucco doesn't seem historic, doesn't seem consistent with the facades in the area, the immediate area, or even in the rest of Montclair. So the rest of the thing, I understand they appear to be functional, they appear to be done to make it more accessible, handicap accessible, and otherwise. So I don't have any real difficulty, except I think the fluted pattern of the stucco makes it look inconsistent with the historic character of the area.
So, on that point, I'm looking at this, and to me, it almost reads as like a bamboo all the way across. You don't have a sample of what the texture would be? Because it could go either way. It could be very rough, or it could be very smooth, and it could go like bamboo come out, or it could be recessed, like a fluting.
Yep.
So I think that needs to be more defined as to what, or unless
Understood.
it's here, I didn't
Yep.
see it.
Yep, understood. Because, you know, at the end of the day, the design intent is to be more natural, more textured, not necessarily it, you know, really needed to be like a fluted profile. So, you know, to your comments, you know, as long as we, you know, make it this like not too super smooth stucco, I think we can obviously update it.
Well, that was I didn't know what the intent was, to make it look rougher or make it look, you know,
Little
very smooth.
rougher, yeah.
Rougher,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are my comments.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Mr. Sweeney's comments. I think it is an improvement over the current Daikichi facade. I have very significant concerns about losing the terrazzo ramp. I think, you know, a 106-year-old element should be carefully considered in this design. And I am not sure that this design fits in with the character of the district. I think, but again, it is an improvement over the Daikichi storefront. All right, those are my comments for now, Chair.
Steve?
I like the design. I like the way that you're widening the entrance. The existing entrance is foreboding. This is a lot more open. I don't have any problems with the texture of the stucco. To have it sort of, I think that's kind of mimicking the entrance itself. I just would make sure that the color is correct, that you're matching up with existing limestone on the building and maybe up and down the block. That's about it. try to keep the terrazzo floor.
Mm.
Somehow incorporate that into the design.
Well, I have a question. With the stucco, if it sounds like this is an issue, the stucco that's on the second floor, is that a smooth stucco? Or is that I don't, you can't really tell from the drawings. I think a lot has to do with how you're going to apply it. You know, if you're going to put it on and then run like a comb down it. I think we need to see what the actual texture is going to be.
What's on the second floor, if it's not perfectly smooth, it's just a lightly stippled or something similar.
Oh, stippled, okay.
Yeah, it doesn't have any kind of deeply traveled.
Texture to it.
Right.
Okay.
But that by itself, just a smooth stucco finish, without the half timbering as a part of it, I think would be relatively unremarkable as the facade. It would be like the Mr. Smoller's description of the I don't remember what the term was, but these sort of bland stucco facades, which I'm not sure if that's a reference to EFIS facades.
Probably.
Which is where we see a lot of sort of unremitting, just smooth stucco finish.
It would also, just to add to that, be somewhat, I think, atypical to bring a Tudor Revival storefront all the way down to grade with stucco. There's typically brick, masonry, rubble, somewhere in between. Especially without the half timbering, could look a little weird.
Especially what type of?
Without the half timbering detailing in this new storefront, I think if you just brought flat stucco down, it would look like you were referencing the second floor, but you didn't understand maybe how a Tudor Revival-like style building would, on a component basis, come together.
So do you, in your opinion, is this type of texture enough of a departure from what a typical Tudor Revival, what you're saying, to bring it all the way down to the ground? Is this enough of departure and still within the design, element?
Yeah, I think it's a contemporary reinterpretation of a material that is compatible. I mean, it's all over the Tudor Revival facade. I think it's imperative, though, that samples are shown to the commission, and then also, maybe more importantly, pictures of what that sample looks like adjacent to not only the brick, the limestone at the ground floor, but maybe even the second floor stucco, just to understand the surface texture, which I think should probably be, if you keep with this fluted profile, you should probably be going for the same surface treatment between both, because you're getting the differentiation from just the profile that in this new product.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Pierre? Comment? First of all, thank you for working with us. We really appreciate it. I think that it is certainly a departure. My question is this, can this storefront be taken out?
It's a good question.
If somebody else came along and wanted to do is all of this is removable? The glass, the stucco, the overhang?
Certainly it's all removable. Do you mean removable without destroying any more of the existing historic structure?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't see why it would cause any additional destruction.
Well, that's one of the things we have to consider, that we have, when we talk about
certainly,
this.
The entire storefront that's between those brick columns is not structural. So if they were to remove that, the structure, the existing brick that's there would remain. It couldn't be, changed any way you want. You could create any storefront there that you want. It could be all glass, or it just doesn't matter. It's not holding anything up.
Filling in a hole, basically.
Yes, and we saw that we saw that what the anticipated design was, or the previous design, they had taken out the brick across. So they're not removing any brick down between the glass and the, it's already been removed. There's nothing there.
It
And
actually
I've-
looks
There's the
like,
two courses, though, brick that,
Down at the bottom.
oh, at the bottom.
Yeah,
Sure.
right. So I think that's what we have to,
the right-hand side of the second floor storefront is a finished corner. It's not like somebody cut into the brick. There's a finished outside brick corner, as is, I believe, the same condition on the column on the right-hand side. It's not like it was hacked away at some point in the past.
And Chair, I would like to just add to my comments that I like the second floor, the redesign of the second floor entrance. I think they did an excellent job there as well. And I think given that there's no structural element to the facade, that makes me more comfortable with the design.
and for the entryway, the teak entryway, you have teak over here on the right. When you just mentioned that it was a finished turned corner? Is the corner turned on? But yet you
I was
show.
referring to the left-hand edge of the right-hand column being a finished
Yeah.
edge,
I think,
as
right.
opposed to a rough edge where somebody cut the brick out in the past.
Yeah, that left course of brick, that line there where that stops, they meant it. They actually ended
Designed
that
it.
brick right there.
Designed it that way.
Built it that way.
Yeah, built it that way.
I wish we had Google Street View for every year back to 1916.
And then this metal overhang, what type of black metal? Is it a substantial? Because we've had issues with metal awnings and overhangs that,
It would be more substantial than brake metal, yes.
Then what?
Than aluminum brake metal. It would be,
Okay, all right.
It would be like an extrusion.
So do we need more definition on what that would be too? In terms of,
Yeah, I mean, it caught my eye looking at these drawings that were revised as sort of a foreign addition to the storefront. I didn't really understand if it was like a modern lower cornice or what the role of that was. It's certainly a place for icicles.
oh, I see, this. So what is the commission's thought, what are our thoughts on the awning? And how far out does the awning extend?
It's about 16 inches, I believe.
And that's
Which is-
compatible with our ordinance, like?
Which is far less than what is existing as of today. The wooden awning was protruding about, I don't know if, maybe if I'm
About
wrong,
2
but it
feet.
was about 24 inches.
Mhm. Well,
When we met at the site, Mr. Reinmetz had actually pointed to the more recent storefronts to the right or to the north of there, where it's like a metal and glass canopy projection. He said, why don't you do something like that?
I remember. And the window that you're proposing, it's going to be a display window?
The idea is that while we're providing the transparency, we also want to provide some sense of privacy for the dining experience inside. It's intended to be a very sort of quiet, secluded dining experience, if I'm correct. And to put some art objects in there, like sort of Zen contemplative type objects, sort of thing. So not to obscure the view, but to have something, to have it function like a display window.
display
as-
window.
As if we were selling merchandise, but just making it more decorative.
And the window across the front, that's all one sheet of glass, and then there's a break with a, and then it turns around, so that, the turn, it's actually curved glass?
The intention is actual curved glass.
And then behind that, we don't have a clear, unless there's somewhere else. Is it 2 pieces of glass or 3 pieces? Oh, here we can see 2, but is there another?
How many sections?
Yeah,
I would anticipate from a fabrication standpoint that the flat part would be separate from the radius part, just for manufacturing feasibility.
mm-hmm,
But that it would be like a butt glazed condition between the two. Between the two layers.
Are there any other comments from the commission?
yeah,
I'll open
just-
it up to comments from the floor.
The color palette that you chose with the texturing and considering the scrutiny for the historical value for this neighborhood being like the Tudor style, that, this is just my opinion, it really does, I think it deviates quite a bit from the color palette for the block. And then you have additional texture on top of it. So I think because of the texture and the deviation of color, it kind of throws it quite a bit off from that Tudor style. That's historical, I mean, more than just historical.
The color of the stucco was intended to match the color of the adjacent limestone. Just a question of the precision of color of the rendering versus the rendering of the proposed condition versus the photograph of the existing condition. They might have been a little bit more precise in the
And that's why we
color
would
selection.
require, as a condition, if it gets approved, we would require to see a sample in situ, so we could look at it, in the light and what's next door to it.
Because that's for me, it's a pretty good compliment.
Well, it's color and texture, right. And they might have to work a couple of different colors and a couple of different textures as well.
The intention was not to modulate both color and texture at the same time, but to keep the hue the same. It just doesn't reflect exactly as it was intended on the rendering.
So, just to get back to the awning, the reference to the other awnings on the block that have been put in, especially to the north, there are metal awnings. So, that's why I want to see a clearer, a more inclusive picture of the entire block, because these pictures don't really give you a clear indication of how this is going to fit in with the rest of the block, because obviously we're working with infill that's gone in, in the 70s and the 80s, which really is nothing, nothing to speak of there. So,
It won a Garden Club award.
but was that, but I think that was just for the planter in the front. Yeah, I don't think that was.
I wondered about that. They were in love with the wood planks or something.
Oh, well, I'm not going to comment any further, so. So I think what we'll do, nobody from the public wants to comment? No? All right, we'll close public comment, and then we'll do another round as to whether or not you support this application, and if there's conditions in the application that if we approve it, that the applicant would then have to follow, all right? So, Mr. Smolin, before we have comments or from the committee, do you have any final comments on your part for this application? I mean, you've touched on I was trying to make notes here. You said that there was the right direction, that there's more transparency than Boyd's from the first application. We've talked about preserving the historic fabric, so they did come in with the new application of preserving the surround to the second floor. I think there is I think we've all said the same thing about retaining the terrazzo floor. However you do that, that I'm sure will be a condition. The idea of they did do a probe. I mean, we were privy to what they removed, and there's nothing that that it's, you know, from the renovation around 1934, there's no core glass. You did, with the probe, we were able to see what brick maintains, especially in the soldier course, and under that pent roof. So the signage, we'd have to go further about the signage and maybe ask for more clarification, but it sounds that they're on the right path with that, and the lighting. So what else, in terms of the facade, I mean, whether or not it's compatible with the historic district, I hear your concerns, but I'm wondering if this, for what it is, trying to have an Eastern aesthetic, or a Far Eastern aesthetic, if it can be removed, or if it's removable, whether this would be the combination of keeping the historic fabric on the left, on the southern side, and then even on the right, it's framing a new addition. I'm just curious. I mean, again, totally divergent from what's there, or for what's, a Tudor.
Divergent from the existing storefront.
Well, it's not
design, for
I
sure.
mean, no, but I just mean the district, the district.
Tudor style.
The district style.
In style, but I think a somewhat faithful attempt was made to at least use materials with the stucco, especially, that are found throughout the district, and I think that's admirable. The limited kind of accent use of the teak wood, I don't think in and of itself is going to cause much visual distraction. I think by hopefully preserving that terrazzo entrance threshold, that's great, and certainly isn't going to impact the character of the district, because it's keeping some original character there. The metal trim for the awning canopy thing, plenty of precedent for that in the district more recently. So overall, I think with the suggestions we've discussed tonight, a finding could be made that the proposed new addition is harmonious with the historic district, and represents, I think, a thoughtful, modern storefront that's not adversely impacting, from a visual standpoint, other historic resources in the area. You did not mention, though, that there, I think, was still an open item on whether or not those two courses of brick below the soldier course are to be preserved and then patched to the north, or if those are to be removed. Given that they're presently concealed and I think only partially existing, that it's not a major issue for them to be removed, and there's probably a likelihood that some bricks are going to need to be patched or carefully replaced during the course of the project, and they can use the bricks elsewhere.
Well, if those bricks at the top where the awning, you have to remove some of the bricks on that soldier course in order to fit the awning in, correct?
Below the soldier course.
Right, here, below the soldier course.
Right.
And that's where the awning goes in. And I asked you if you've guesstimated how many need to be removed, but you don't.
Well, it's
two rows.
Two bricks high by about maybe 2/3 of the width of the new storefront.
Okay. And to preserve, so if you were to, oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. So the height of this awning, how does it fit in, how does it fit with the awning heights? It'll be higher, I guess, than a traditional awning.
You mean like the...
In height, it'll be higher.
Yeah, geometrically, it's basically flipped. So currently, the awning itself is much wider and much bigger, much higher and much bigger. but it's sloping down like this way. So, you know, as you were saying, the bottom of awning would be lower than what we propose. But, you know, as I mentioned it before, we're trying to like, you know, sort of like reduce the awning to the height where it's sort of like matched to the existing stone plaque right next to it.
Well, I'm just looking at in terms of the total facade, the total storefront. And I don't find that it's, you know, I think it would be more of a, it would be harder to hide new brick, or to incorporate new brick into this and continue the lines of brick across. So I think that, I don't have a problem with that, unless, does anyone think that the awning is too high?
I don't have an issue.
No, I think it's fine.
Okay.
I actually like the awning, I think it's tastefully done.
Yeah, okay. So, any other comments, Mrs. Smolin, or no? So, why don't we start with you, Mr. Pierre? What we're going to do is whether or not you would support this project as it's been presented, and if there's conditions that you want to see, if we approve it, that, you know, there have been a number of conditions that hopefully someone's writing down.
Yeah, no, I'd approve of it with the condition presented for, definitely with the texture.
Here, I don't know if you have your microphone on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I support it definitely, but obviously with the condition of what I wanted to point out, the texture and the color. We definitely need to see that, and hopefully it keeps the style of Tudor and it keeps it, I don't know, doesn't stand out compared to all the other buildings. So.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Floyd?
Yes. Yes, I would most definitely support moving forward with the conditions being suggested. Tudor happens to be one of my favorite styles, so I think what you're doing in terms of trying to add a little modernization to it, I think you've done an exceptional job with bringing back as much of the original design that was there with the brick. My only pet peeve, and I think everybody's in agreement, please just make sure that that color matches appropriately. And I would try to do a little bit more of a refined stucco, you know, just because there's a lot of different textures and mixed mediums going there already. That would be my only two. And so I would support it with the conditions.
Thank you. Mr. Rooney?
Yeah, I'll support it with the conditions, especially the field monitoring of the stucco color and texture, and also what we can do with that entrance medallion on the floor.
Right. Mike?
I think I'm in agreement. I think my concerns have been addressed sufficiently throughout this discussion. My issue has always been making sure we preserve the original elements, like the terrazzo that's 106 years old. But given that the entryway to the second floor has been dramatically improved from the original design, I really like the plaque, the limestone plaque for the signage, and the fact that it can be changed because there is no structural element to the storefront makes me much more comfortable with this design. So I would be in support, and it is far improves the Daikiji design. So I would be in support of this project.
Jerry?
I support it. I think it's a substantial improvement over what exists. I like the pattern overall. What I believe, though, that the texturing of the stucco has to be presented to us, because it looks too much like lines and lineage, and that may be just the photograph that I'm looking at. So, but that was my only concern, and it just seemed the texture as presented in these pictures looks extreme, and it looks inconsistent with the historical character.
Well, that would be a condition. That
Yeah.
we would-
So it'd be a
we-
condition,
We would,
but
we
I-
would monitor.
I support it generally.
And I would have to say that I'm in agreement as well. It is a departure from the Tudor-esque style that is in the district, but you know, I think with the rework of the entryway to the second floor helps with, you know, framing the standout storefront. But definitely, we need the field monitoring for the stucco and the terrazzo, what you can do and I think what will happen is that terrazzo has such has a vibrancy, the color-wise to it, that reds and the golds. I just think that it would really pop I can see it doing something here. I think you've, you know, done a good job with the design, because basically you were working with a void. I mean, this was
Yeah.
a void.
That's an important point.
Which I think is something that, you know, I understand you want to keep the aesthetic that's going for the restaurant. So I think with the conditions that we have mentioned, and we'll write them down, I guess maybe we'll call a vote on this to approve?
With conditions as
With the
as stated.
condition, okay, all right. Yes, so a motion to approve this with conditions that will state after.
I'll make a motion to approve with conditions.
Okay, great.
Second.
All right, and then all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
okay, great. So, the conditions.
You want me to read them?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
Stephen, I probably need to add, I'm sure I don't have everything. I have preserve the terrazzo entrance.
Mm-hmm.
To field monitor the stucco texture and color,
Mm.
and as well as the terrazzo.
Oh, your mic's not on.
I'm sorry. Number one, preserve the terrazzo entrance. Number two, have the design review committee field monitor the color and texture of the stucco and terrazzo. 3, the sign shall be installed in a manner so as to reduce the holes in the limestone, and revised plans should be submitted to show how that will be achieved. That's what I have. What am I missing?
Only thing I would add to the first condition is that new terrazzo will be added around the existing, and I think it's to be either to match or be sympathetic with the existing, unless there's a different opinion.
Say that again, new terrazzo?
New terrazzo instead of the pebbles.
Oh, terrazzo, I'm looking, okay, sorry,
Yeah.
okay.
New
yeah,
terrazzo instead of pebbles.
yeah. Right, yes, I think that the pebbles will not work, and is there?
Could we give them some leeway and say something compatible with the terrazzo in case they can't match it? You know, just so, and it would
Oh,
also
okay.
distinguish it from the original element? So one or the other?
Yes.
I
Yeah,
think,
that's
right?
good.
Yeah.
And I assume that would go to the design review committee to
Right.
ultimately decide, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that when you're ready, when this work gets underway, you would call the office again, and then we would set up a meeting to come out and look,
Right.
like we did last week, okay? But thank you and thank you, Stephen, the great idea to do the probe underneath what's existing there. And I think it's gonna, it's gonna be a very, very handsome facade,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you
Yeah.
all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Why don't we just take a 5-minute break, okay?
Right.
I wish I could put contractors under oath. Typical pieces.
And we're now going to address the application 2889, 204 Claremont Avenue. This is a referral to the Board of Adjustment. 204 Claremont Avenue is in the proposed Walnut Street Historic District. It was built in 1870. It is a vernacular stick-style commercial property with Italianate elements. A later addition, likely after the district's period of significance. The inside north corner, but Claremont and Cottage Place reduced the subject property's historic integrity by concealing two original facade elevations. However, overall, it still contributes to the district's historic significance. The site landscaping was not identified as a character-defining element of the subject property. The property description is an addition of parking in the northwest front yard, visible from Cottage Place, and an addition of a hardscape walkway in the southwest rear yard, connecting to 50 North Fullerton, which is the church. So that's it. Good evening,
That's it.
Paul. How are
Good
you?
evening. Good evening.
We need to swear you in?
Probably tired.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the
I
whole
do.
truth? Okay.
I do. So my
Okay.
name is Paul Sionis, and I'm the architect on the project.
Thank you.
So I put together a PowerPoint set of slides consisting of approximately 10 slides, and I've made copies for everyone. And the reason we do the PowerPoint is we take what's on the drawings, put them into the PowerPoint, but also we're able to add color to them and also add photographs into the PowerPoint to make it easier to explain the project. So 204 Claremont Avenue is directly across the street from this building. It's known as Lot 6 in Block 2310. It's the northeast corner of Cottage Place and Claremont Avenue. The lot's trapezoidal in shape. It's about 1.18 acres. The frontage along Claremont is 70.52 feet, and it goes back 113 feet. And the site's pretty flat. As you noted, the building that's on the property was built in 1870, and it's a 2.5-story building. Currently, the first floor of the building is a dental practice. The second floor is used as staff lounge and kitchen, plus offices for the first floor dental practice, and then the third floor is a dwelling unit or an apartment. Previously, the first floor was a dental office, and then the second floor and third floor had apartments. The reason we're here is because the dentist actually moved into that second floor space already. So the second floor had an apartment. They're occupying that second floor, both, as I said, for staff lounge, a training area, a couple of private offices for the dentist, and also they kept the kitchen as the staff kitchen. So because they did that, we have to appear before the zoning board to ask for a parking variance because the dental offices, even though it's staff lounge and not an actual treatment area, but the dental office on the second floor is considered a medical use, and it requires more parking than the previous dwelling unit on the second floor. So therefore, they have to apply for a parking variance before the zoning board. Because they had to apply to the zoning board, they appeared before the Development Review Commission, who made several suggestions. I'm here tonight to discuss the project, and then we will eventually appear at the zoning board. So there's no change in the building footprint, there's no change in the area, no change in the volume. It's not even a change in the second floor layout because they moved into the apartment the way it was. The kitchen works well for them, as do the bedrooms and the living room space. On this first page is the 2012 property survey, and the weird thing to me is that there's an existing asphalt paved parking area in that top right corner of the property, and it's paved for 6 cars, and it's on the southwest side of the lot, and it's partially within the Cottage Place right-of-way. So that means that 5 feet of those paved spaces are on the public property. So I'll go to the next slide. So the second slide is a Google Earth satellite view, and you can see it, the lots between Cottage Place to the west and Claremont Avenue to the north. Directly to the rear or to the south of this property is a parking lot that's owned by Immaculate Conception Church. And this applicant currently leases 8 parking spaces from Immaculate Conception on that parking lot. Directly to the east, adjoining this property, is a real estate office that's at the corner of North Fullerton and Claremont. Across the street is this municipal building that we're sitting in. And as you know, the neighborhood's a mixture of uses from apartments, offices, plus the municipal building. The property's in the OR3 zone, which is the garden apartment and office building zone. And as you can see from this slide 3, it's right across the street from the P or public zone. And prior to 2015, the building had storage in the basement. The first and second floor were professional offices, so there was a counseling center in there for many years, up until 2015. And the third floor, to my knowledge, has historically been an apartment or a dwelling unit. Between 2015 up until current times, the basement is still storage. The first floor is a dental practice, and then the second and third floor were 2 apartments. And that was per a 2013 planning board approval. And as I said, most recently, the dental practice occupied the second floor apartment and are using it for both uses that are important for their space on the first floor. Slide number 4 are 2 site photos. Both are from Google Earth. The image on the left is the view from Claremont Avenue. That's the existing 2.5-story building. And then the image on the right is the view from Cottage Place. And you could see where it was paved with asphalt, those 6 parking spaces. Again, 5 feet of that asphalt is within the public right-of-way. In other words, on township property. But they currently have those 6 striped parking spaces. Slide number 5 is a drawing from when they received an updated planning board approval in 2016. So originally, the approval was granted in 2013, and the work was completed in 2016 to convert professional office space on the first floor into the dental practice. And at that time in 2013, we received approval to convert the second floor from professional offices into an apartment. And the apartment on the third floor was there, and it's still there today. They also got approval to build a trash and recycling enclosure on the south side of the property. It's a 6-foot-tall wood fence. And then that asphalt paving for the 6 spaces, as far as I could find it, it's existed as far back as 2001 as part of a planning board approval from 2001. So there's 6 parking spaces along Cottage Place, and cars have to back out into Cottage Place. Slide number 6 is what's proposed. So as I stated, they're seeking approval to use the second floor for staff offices, kitchen, and a staff lounge, all for the first floor dental practice. And as recommended by the Development Review Commission, the Development Review Commission stated or suggested strongly that those parking spaces be moved out of the public right-of-way. So we're proposing to slide those parking spaces approximately 5 feet to the east, or 5 feet towards North Fullerton Avenue. And by doing that, creating a new public sidewalk to connect the public sidewalk that runs along Cottage Place to the south. In other words, there's a concrete sidewalk in front of the Immaculate Conception parking lot. So the idea is to connect the public sidewalk at the Immaculate's parking lot right down to the Claremont Avenue public sidewalk. So this means moving these parking spaces 5 feet to the east, and then create this new concrete sidewalk to connect the Cottage Place sidewalk to the Claremont Avenue sidewalk. The original application, I think that you had, and I think some of the comments reflected, the applicants were seeking 2 additional parking spaces within this front yard. We've reduced it to 1 additional parking space. So on this drawing, you can see parking stalls labeled 1 through 7 along Cottage Place. Number 7 is a designated reserved parking spot for the doctor, for the dentist who runs the business. It's located there because there's a utility pole with a guy wire that prohibits putting a parking space directly next to parking space number 6. So the proposal is to remove all of the asphalt paving, create these parking spaces by using permeable pavers that will allow water to drain through. We selected a paver. It's shown on this slide. It's a Teco Block brand, which I like. And they make a Villaggio paver, and the color would be shale gray. It's reminiscent of cobblestone. It's a little smoother than cobblestones, but it's permeable. And what we're also proposing is to create the striping between each parking space with either dark gray or black pavers. And also between stalls 4 and 5, there has to be a striped access aisle for the ADA or barrier-free parking space. So that would also be done with the pavers. And then parking stall number 4 would be the actual ADA parking space. So we're indicating that the handicap logo would be created out of a different color paver than this shale gray paver. The applicant also asked to have a sidewalk from the rear of their building back to those 8 parking spaces they leased from Immaculate Conception. So parking spaces that are labeled 8 through 15 are the spaces that are leased from Immaculate. And right now, the users of those parking spaces, which are the dental office employees, they walk around to the sidewalk, public sidewalk, and then to the rear entry of the building. But they asked if they could show a sidewalk from the rear of the building to the Immaculate's parking area. And we're proposing that a new gate would be placed in the existing chain link fence between stalls 11 and 12. So those spaces would continue to be leased from Immaculate. The sidewalk that leads from the rear of the building to the Immaculate's parking lot would also have permeable pavers. So we're trying to limit the amount of impervious surface on the property. Also, as suggested at the Development Review Commission meeting, we're proposing a new bicycle rack. So we're showing a new 5-bicycle bike rack directly to the south of the building. Hopefully patients of the dental office will use that, or employees of the practice. Slide 7 is a continuation of the proposal. Basically, the bottom right shows the bike rack. This is a 5-bicycle bike rack. It's basically it's called a ribbon rack. Mad Racks is one of the companies that makes this particular bike rack. So this basically indicates what's proposed within this site plan. So the existing trash enclosure at the south side or rear of the property, that would remain. The gate is currently broken, so we're calling for the gate to be replaced. The permeable spaces, stalls number 1 through 6 plus stall number 7. Number 7 would have a sign that says doctors parking only. And as I said, there's an existing utility pole and a guy wire connected to that utility pole, which prohibits any additional parking between stalls 6 and 7. There's an existing sidewalk that we're calling to be removed on the subject property, so that sidewalk runs from in the front of stalls 7, 6, 5, all the way to the trash enclosure. Once we move the parking stalls further to the east, there's really no room for that sidewalk anymore, and there's also no reason for it. And as I said, we're trying to limit the amount of impervious surface coverage on the property. So by removing that sidewalk, that's helping us. Slide number 8 shows the existing light fixtures. So there's wall-mounted light fixture that's shown in the center of the slide, which shown as the letter A. They have 2 of those on the building, and then they have 2 pole-mounted lights along the front walkway closer to Claremont Avenue. As I said, they're seeking approval to use that second floor, to change it from the permitted residential use to use it as offices and a lounge plus kitchen for their dental practice staff. There's minimal interior changes. Really, there's no interior changes. When I went in there, they basically painted to make it look brighter. They do have variance requests, which will go before the zoning board for. One is to have this parking in the front yard. So as I said, this was approved around 2001, but we're asking to create one more parking space, so we have a variance to have parking in the front yard. We have a parking deficiency. 22 parking spaces are required based on the dental practice, and the 1 apartment. They only have 7, with this plan, they have 7 spaces on site, and they're leasing 8 from Immaculate. And then there's something called waivers. Originally, we showed 9-foot by 19-foot parking stalls, which is what the township requirement is, but at the DRC meeting, it was suggested we reduce stalls 1 through 6, most of those stalls by 6 inches to get some more landscaped area, rather than having all that paving in front. Slide 9 is the floor plans. So there was a question, thank you, why are these labeled existing? Because this is the existing condition, no changes are being made. So in they currently use the basement for storage. It's been historically used for storage. On the right side is that existing first floor plan. There are no changes proposed. They currently have 4 treatment rooms. The dentist goes from room to room. There's a reception area and a waiting room, and a lab and a small private office. And then the last slide, number 10, shows that second floor plan on the left. And as I said, this is, they seek to get permission to continue to use this for office use. So the kitchen at the top left remains, but it's now the staff kitchen. The large living room is the staff lounge, plus they do some training up there. And then the 3 bedrooms, one has become a private office, another is a second staff lounge, and then the third is a digital lab. On the right side is the top floor, and there are no changes proposed. So this is a 1-bedroom apartment that's existed historically, and no changes proposed to that apartment. And that concludes my testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll open it up for questions now from the commissioners. Mr. Sweeney.
Paul, among the no changes that you mentioned, is there also no change in the external appearance of the building?
Unfortunately, yes.
Oh, unfortunately?
Yes,
Okay.
no
Well,
change.
that's important.
Oh, it's
Okay.
it's fine.
So the principal exterior changes are the addition of the parking space, the addition of the bike rack, and that's all that there is. Second thing, it appears that the second floor is simply reverting back to a prior use that it originally had, that entailed, as of 2013, it was improved to convert it from a professional office into a dwelling. It's just converting it back. But my one question is, are there any addition of the number of rooms used on the first floor for dental practice, or is that the same number?
That's the same number. That's
Okay.
stayed like this.
Then
Stayed the same.
I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Seems pretty straightforward.
Mr. Graham.
I just One question about spaces 6 and 7. It looks like there's a support wire on the telephone pole. Is that why it's so wide?
That's why it's so wide. There's
Yeah.
like a diagonal guy wire.
Yeah.
That supports that telephone pole.
And there's no way to get it closer, right?
We,
Or anything that can be done with that space? It just seems like a very large gap.
it does, it does.
Yeah.
I mean, originally the dentist asked if he could pull in sideways to that space,
That's, yeah.
but then he would block a car in space number 6.
Oh, okay. Okay, I think that was my only
Mr. Renner?
question.
On page 6, all of the concrete in white is existing?
Yes,
Okay. So you're just adding the permeable pavers to the back and also in the parking?
to the walkway to Immaculate's
Yeah.
parking lot and the parking spaces, but then we're removing that existing concrete sidewalk.
Sure.
Yeah.
Great. Are you changing any landscaping?
No.
Ms. Floyd?
No questions.
Mr. Pierre? You just mentioned landscaping, and it looks pretty barren on page 4, and I noticed in the front, so no existing trees will be cut down.
Correct.
And is there any thought to add any landscaping to that little island that's on the corner now that might obscure the view?
There was a suggestion, I think Mr. Smolin made, maybe to screen some of the parking with landscaping. So we could propose landscaping around, or at least to the northern side of stall number 7, maybe on both sides of stall number 7, and maybe on the northerly side of stall number 6.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, any other questions? No. Mr. Smolin, would you go over your report then?
Sure. Just to summarize, I guess how we got here, the dentist converted the second floor and to some type of accessory medical office space, and kind of got caught maybe, and now they're getting called in for a parking variance.
Janice, do you know? My understanding. I'm not.
Maybe it doesn't matter.
No, but my understanding is that they moved up to the second floor.
Okay. They're up there
Made no
already.
changes, and I thought they went in to speak to Richard Sharoon to see what permission they needed, and he said they would need a zoning board application.
Permission for the work they already did.
Then the fact that they moved their
Yes.
office up there, yes.
And on paper, they need 20 parking spaces, and you're asking for a variance to provide effectively 4 less than that?
They actually need 22 total.
22 total.
It's,
Okay.
yeah. So they only can fit these 7 spaces on site, and right now, they're leasing 8 from Immaculate, so
That's
that's
'cause I'm-
15.
That's because I'm looking at the old plans, which had an
I'm
extra
sorry,
space.
yeah.
Okay. And what I'm getting at, though, is the HPC here tonight is going to prepare an advisory report that the zoning board will consider as part of the variance request, and conceivably, the HPC could suggest the degree of the variance be increased and less spaces be provided, because adding additional spaces on the front yard does not advance the historic character of the district. You would agree?
I agree.
Okay.
Yes.
That would be my recommendation.
Not to add spaces on the...
Yes, to ask that the zoning board consider allowing the applicant to have even less parking spaces than these drawings are proposing. And remove, I think it's identified, just to be clear, as spot,
Spot 7?
7.
yes, which is awfully close to the corner. A car will be parked there, it sounds like, just about every day, if that's the
Correct.
head honcho.
Right.
And that's going to be very present and disruptive to the streetscape.
So you're suggesting that we...
Deny.
deny the,
Or recommend that.
Recommend-
Recommend removing space.
recommend that that
Seven.
space not be added.
Correct.
Okay.
But you don't have any issues with the other elements of the design?
No, and just to be clear, spaces 1 through 6 will receive that concrete cobblestone treatment. So I think that's an
Correct.
improvement. They're off the sidewalk. There's continuity there with the rest of that frontage. And the walkway in the back also has that cobblestone treatment. So that, I think, is all complementary of, historic material palette.
Does that cobblestone, is that able to be painted, to create the stalls?
Colors.
Well, my preference is for the striping to be done with black or dark gray pavers. I've seen
Oh,
that
okay.
done successfully.
Oh,
And with this Teco Block company, they have examples on their website of even the handicap logo made out of the pavers, the wheelchair symbol.
which would be embedded in the parking spot?
In stall number 4,
Oh,
correct.
I think that would be nice.
Yeah, right.
I would just recommend that as much landscaping in that corner, which looks very bare,
Okay.
something be put. And are the hedges there currently?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, okay, seen them. I would just say to try to increase the landscaping,
Okay.
the greenery,
Okay.
especially in that, in the corner. All right, so our recommendations, any other discussion? Recommendation that the, how would we word it? That the extra, number 7 parking lot?
The recommendations would be to eliminate space number 7.
Right.
And add additional landscaping along the northern side of the parking space.
Oh, Janice, your microphone.
Sorry, I did it again. Add landscaping along the northern side of parking spaces 6 and 7 to better screen them from the street. And
Well, I think we decided, I mean, we haven't decided, but the recommendation would be to definitely add it to the north of space 6, right? And then we would just eliminate space 7, I believe,
correct.
is the recommendation.
Yep.
Because look, there's parking all around Cottage, there's parking all up and down Claremont, I get it, but that space 7 does stick out like a sore thumb. It just, yeah.
I wanted to qualify that. It's the space on the second floor converted back to a medical office is not going to add the number of patients because you haven't added the number of the chairs or space in the first floor for chairs.
Correct.
So that seems to be, so long as you don't add additional chairs or
Operatories, yeah.
spaces, that parking number 7 is not needed and does detract from the historic appearance. So we would support it.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. This would be the fastest one we approved.
We should have had you on first, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
So, next up is application 2888, which is 315 Claremont Avenue. This also is a recommendation to the zoning board. And it is a minor site plan with a variance. And I just, I noted, and the office knows that on the planning memo, the site description is incorrect. So the site description is, it's actually north of, it's north of the municipal building. It's not, yeah, this is the description of the previous application. So that'll be corrected when it goes to the planning board. And the application, the building which exists at 315 Claremont Avenue is, it's not in the Walnut Street area, potential district area. The other application was, so that would be eliminated from, oh, thank you. What is this? Oh, okay. And it is a circa 1920s house. Is a large 2.5-story vernacular craftsman-style building fronting on Claremont Avenue. Style was popularized between the wars and is common throughout Montclair, with 315 Claremont being one of the grandest examples. The style is an emphasis on a horizontality and typically features a low-pitched gabled roof supported by decorative braces and varied natural building materials such as wood, stucco, or stone. The project description, the applicant proposes to construct a 2.5-story addition to the rear of the existing building, which will contain a third 2-bedroom dwelling, and the existing gravel 2-track driveway will be replaced with 2-track pavers, and the existing gravel parking area in the rear will be removed and replaced with a smaller parking area for 6 parking spaces, comprised of asphalt with granite curb blocking. 2 15-foot tall light poles and 7 wall-mounted lights are proposed to illuminate the parking lot, sidewalks, and entrances. So this building was surveyed in the 1980, is this building? The 1982, God bless you. Oh, we don't, I thought we had a,
The 1980 surveys at the end of my report.
yeah, here it is. It's part of Mr. Smollen's report, was included in the 1982 surveys of historic structures in Essex County. And it lists the same, and we can see from the picture that the front facade remains relatively unchanged. So the work is proposed as I described it, and Paul will walk us through to the back and the driveway. So we have a new person. Would you identify yourself and I'll swear you in?
Yeah, my name's Alex Ball. I'm the son of the owners.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So just raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth in terms of this application?
I do.
All right.
In general.
Okay, good evening. So, Paul, you just handed out another very
Copies of-
thorough PowerPoint presentation. So can you walk us through what you're proposing to do on this?
Sure. So,
Okay, push it through.
yeah, you may push the slides forward for me.
Oh, sure.
So as you stated, this is 315 Claremont Avenue. It's Lot 17 in Block 1507. It's on the north side of Claremont Avenue. It's about 118 feet west of Valley Road. This property is also trapezoidal shaped. It's approximately 0.37 acres and has 100 feet of frontage on Claremont Avenue. It's in the R3 Garden Group Zone. It was constructed around 1920, and the exterior of the building includes both brick on part of the ground floor exterior, stucco on around the rest of the building on the ground floor and the rear of the building, plus the second floor, and then there are wood shingles on part of the top floor. The site's relatively flat. It slopes slightly from the northwest side to the southeast, so in other words, the back left to the front right. Currently, it's improved with 2 structures. It's an existing 2-family dwelling, which is the subject of this application. And then there's a 2-car garage at the rear of the property. There's also currently a gravel driveway and large gravel parking area at the rear of the property. Next slide, Alex. Thanks. So slide number 2, this is a Google Earth satellite view. And again, it's the north side of Claremont Avenue, Valley Road's to the east, and North Mountain Avenue is further up to the west. It's surrounded by a real mixture of uses. There's apartment buildings, there's offices, there's the George property, a couple lots to the west. So there are mixed uses. Next slide. So it's in the R3 Garden Group Zone, and it's right next to the OR3 zone. So in this zone, multifamily dwellings are permitted as conditional uses. In other words, you have to meet the conditions in order to have multifamily structure in this zone. And this application does not meet one of the conditions. So the condition in this zone is that there has to be one main entrance at the front of the buildings. It has to be a main entrance that faces the street. So in this building, the current dwelling units, there's two dwelling units here now, they have separate entries. One is at the front, one is at the rear of the building. And the proposal is to create a new addition for Alex, so it's nice of his parents to help build this addition. So Alex, who grew up in Montclair, Stephen Street? So they grew up on Stephen Street, and his parents bought this property 2 years ago?
The end of 2020,
So
4 years.
4 years ago, basically to age in place. When we met initially after they bought this from Mr. Plofker, we discussed building a detached ADU on the property, but then after discussing this, it made more sense, since the ADU was limited in size to 800 square feet, it made more sense to do an addition to this back northwest corner of the building. The entry to this addition would also be a separate entry, so this is also a variance request because the way the building is configured now, we can't go through the existing building to get to the front entrance. When we looked at this building originally around 2019 or 2020 for the previous owner, it contained 3 dwelling units. And then between 2020 and now, one of the first floor dwelling units was merged with another, resulting in a total of 2 dwelling units in the building now. Alex's parents have a unit number 1, which I'll show you is a nice size unit that they can age in place in. So next slide, please. So also the point is Alex moved away after college
I've been in Peru for 15 years.
15 years, and he's moving back to Montclair. So, all right.
My girlfriend and I are hoping to start a family.
Right.
Back, yeah.
So slide number 4 is basically the streetscape. The center of the slide, the photo is the subject building. It's 315 Claremont Avenue. To the right is 311 Claremont Avenue. That building is at the corner of Valley Road and Claremont. It contains offices, and I believe there was an apartment on the top floor of that building. And then to the left is a single-family residence for 320 Claremont Avenue. Next slide. So slide 5, according to the property records, this was constructed around 1920, and as noted, it's a large 2.5-story craftsman-style building. The front and partial sides contain brick face on the ground floor, so there's brick at the first floor directly at the front, and then that brick wraps around partially onto the west elevation and also to the east elevation. But when you go to the back of the building, it's stucco at that ground floor. The entire second floor and part of the third floor is stucco on the exterior, and then the dormers on the building have wood shingle siding. The windows in the existing building are primarily double-hung windows with leaded glass lights. They're really nice windows. The first floor front bay is topped by a wood grid pattern decoration. It's almost like lattice work, but it was built specifically by someone in 1920, and I think it's a nice detail, and we've tried to copy it. The main roof is a hip-style roof with certain gable roof bays, in addition to the shed roof dormer at the rear of the building. Next slide. So slide 6 shows the proposal. So we're proposing to expand this existing dwelling with a 2.5-story addition that'll have 1 new dwelling unit at the northwest corner. So as I wrote on this slide, this unit's proposed to be for the owner's son, Alex, who's here with us. The new dwelling unit will have a separate entry, which requires a conditional use variance. It will have no interior connection to the other dwelling units. There's an existing 2-car garage at the back of the property. That will remain, and half of it will be used for trash and recycling storage, and the other half will be for the owner's workshop. The existing gravel driveway and the large gravel parking area is to be removed and then be replaced. So we're proposing a driveway along the west side of the property that will have 2 tracks of pavers with grass in between. And then the rear parking area for 6 parking spaces will be asphalt paving surrounded with granite block curbing. Again, Montclair's gotten pretty strict with impervious surface area, so by eliminating a lot of the gravel paving, which doesn't count as pervious, and putting in the 2 tracks of pavers, we're complying with the impervious lot coverage requirement. We're also removing several walkways on the property also to get the amount of impervious down to the required level. There's no parking variance. 5.9 parking stalls are required for these 3 apartments. 6 parking spaces are proposed. We're proposing 1 new air conditioning unit just to the west or to the left of the new addition. It's shown without any screening. We saw that it was noted that we should screen that air conditioning unit either with landscaping or fencing. So we'll propose evergreen landscaping to surround that air conditioning condenser unit. We're adding hardscaping. In other words, besides the 2 rows of pavers for the 2 tire tracks, we're proposing a new walkway to get from the back of the house, a sort of a curvilinear walkway to the rear parking area. And by removing some of the existing walkways in some of the patio areas, we'll have leftover pavers. So that walkway will be made out of the existing pavers. Let's see, there's a, at the Development Review Commission meeting, it was suggested that either fencing or landscaping be installed on the easterly side of the property to block the car headlights. So we're proposing a wood fence on the easterly side of parking stalls that are labeled 5 and 6. It's a 6-foot high fence. Let's see. And that would be on the easterly property line. The other question that came up at the Development Review Commission was, where do the roof leaders lead to? Alex, at our request and the request of the DRC, tested the roof leaders and could not find where the water went to. So rather than leaving it in that no, it didn't. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't going back into the house, but we couldn't.
It didn't come back, but I couldn't see where it was.
So we're proposing 2 dry wells, connecting the roof leaders to 2 new dry wells directly to the rear of the new addition. So the dry wells were calculated to take all of the roof water and then seep slowly back into the soil. Next slide, please. The site has a lot of mature landscaping already. There's some major trees on the property. There are large hedges across the front and along the east side of the property. There are good-sized trees along the west side of the property. There are shrubs that surround the front and the west side of the existing building. So the only new landscaping we're proposing is new evergreen landscaping at the north side of the new parking area, at the north side of parking stalls 1 through 4. We're proposing evergreen cedar trees that would can be spaced pretty tightly together. So we're calling for 11 Brody Eastern Red Cedars, in addition to 2 additional flowering trees, 2 Eastern Red Buds. There's a lot of evergreens on the property, but there's not a lot of flowering trees. So we're calling for 1 new red bud tree where it changes from the 2 tire tracks to the paved parking area, and then 1 new red bud tree just to the east of parking stall, the parking stall that's closest to the existing garage. All of these, the cedar trees and the redbud trees are native to New Jersey. And then lighting, we're proposing new lighting to make the site safer. There are 2 pole-mounted lights, which are labeled on this slide 7, labeled B and C. Those have a 15-foot tall pole, and the light would spread over that parking area. And then there's a new light fixture labeled A, which would be next to and on the exterior, next to the new entry door to Alex's future residence. Okay, I'll go. The next slide, please. So slide 8 shows the floor plans, the basement floor plan plus the first floor plan. So the bottom left of this slide shows the basement. The basement has laundry currently, it has open storage spaces and a mechanical room for the heating and heating equipment and the hot water heater. We're calling for 3 defined storage areas. In the zoning ordinance, we have to have a minimum of 200 cubic feet of storage for each tenant of a multifamily building. So we're calling for owner storage at 372 cubic feet and 2 tenant storage spaces of 250. And these would be accessed by the common stairway within the building. Top of the slide shows the garage. So as I said, it's an existing 2-car garage. The applicant's preference is to use it for additional storage, such as baby strollers, bicycles, etc., on the left side or the west side. And then the request by the applicant is for the right side to have a home workshop in the half of the garage. And I believe you sort of use it for that now, a workshop. Okay. First floor, the first floor existing conditions remain. Unit number 1 occupies the majority of the first floor. The entrance to unit number 1 is through the front door with the blue arrow, also through the back rear deck on the northeast side. Unit number 2 enters from the rear of the building with the green arrow going up the stairway. And then the new unit number 3 would be added to the rear northwest corner of the building. So not across the entire rear, but just we tried to touch as little as possible of the existing building. There's one existing window on the drawing. It says it's to be removed, but we'll propose that that window be removed and stockpiled for future use, or covered temporarily until it's, someone wants to open it again in the future. But as I said, the windows are very nice windows. They're double hung windows with leaded glass detail in it. The back window?
No, it's just a tiny little
square window.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. I'm mistaken. Sorry. So the new dwelling unit would be 2.5 stories. It'll have 2 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms. It'll be 1,750 square feet. And the existing, Alex's parents' unit is a large unit. It's 2,574 square feet. It's 2.5 stories, 3 bedrooms, and 3 bathrooms. Next slide, Alex. Thanks. So slide number 9, the left side is the second floor plan. So in the lower portion of the second floor plan, it shows unit number 2. That's existing unit number 2. That's 958 square feet. It's 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom. To the top left of that is the second floor of the addition. The second floor would have the living room and kitchen dining area. The right side of the slide is the top floor. The top left of this plan is the top floor of Unit 3, which is basically a large studio space with a small bathroom and a balcony on the top floor. But one thing Alex asked for was windows on the east side, because there should be a pretty good New York skyline view from that top floor. Then unit number 1 on the bottom right drawing, that's the top floor of unit number 1, and that's a bedroom and a bathroom up there. So that will remain as is. Okay, next slide, please. Slide number 10, the exterior elevations. The top left is the north elevation, or the rear of the building. It shows the existing compared to the new addition. We're proposing that the roof shingles match the existing. They're all asphalt fiberglass shingles. There'd be a shed roof dormer on the top floor of that addition that would have wood shingle siding to match the wood shingle siding on the existing shed roof dormer to the left in that image. We're proposing a new balcony with in-swinging French doors. And then the windows in the addition would be all double-hung windows, either wood or wood-clad windows. They'd be 1/1. In other words, they would not have divided lights in them to differentiate it from the original building. Top right is the proposed east elevation. So the proposed east elevation is sort of within a will be within a courtyard area or the U shape of the building, the existing and proposed. So the top note indicates that we're trying to copy that the wood grid pattern decoration that's on the front of the building. We originally thought we should do lattice up there, but then we realized the wood grid is even nicer than lattice, and this would partially cover a triangular piece of glass up on that third floor. So from inside, you'd look through that decorative wood grid. To the right of that, there are 4 windows, 4 double-hung windows. Then to the right of that, there'd be additional wood grid decoration, but behind that would be a stucco wall. There's no glass behind that right triangle. The exterior of the addition would all be stucco, same smooth finish to match the existing. Where the second floor meets the first floor, the stucco is flared. There's a nice flared detail or skirt where the second floor meets the first floor. And then the bottom is the west elevation. This is the view along the proposed driveway. So the left side of that is, it's mislabeled. I say it's actually the addition is on the left and the existing is on the right. So this portion on the bottom left is the addition. We're showing the entry to the new dwelling unit on this elevation. In Mr. Smollen's memo, it questioned should the new entry be at the rear of the building, and we wouldn't have a problem with that. The reason we placed it on the side was to minimize walkways, to eliminate impervious surface area. We could certainly put it on the rear and ask for an impervious coverage variance, and it's fine either way with the floor plan. And then, as you could see on both the west elevation and the south elevation, part of the first floor has brick on the exterior. Next slide. This slide, number 11, this is a 3D view of the rear of the building. Both the existing is on the left, and then the proposed addition is on the right. And you could see what I was talking about, trying to do that decorative wood grid up on the third floor of the addition. The third floor has that shed roof dormer with the balcony with the in-swing French doors. There's an existing deck at the first floor that would remain. Okay, next slide. This slide is a view looking looking from the southwest, like basically from the neighboring yard to the west, showing the two tracks of pavers, paver driveway. The addition is on the left, and then the existing building is on the right. And you could see the entry that I just described, entry to the new dwelling unit. It could either be there or it could be placed on the back of the building. To the left of where the person is standing is where one of the new redbud trees would be placed. So again, we're matching the stucco siding, the smooth stucco. We're matching the exposed rafter tails So the existing building has exposed rafter tails. So in other words, the end of the rafters are exposed on the existing building, and we're doing the same on the hip roof overhangs to expose the rafter tails. Next slide. Slide 13 of the existing floor plans. As I said, unit number 1 is where Alex's parents live. This is the 2,574 square foot unit, and then there's an existing unit number 2 on the second floor. That's 958. When the previous owner had this building, the first floor was actually had 2 units. So the left side or the west side of the first floor was a separate apartment. Okay. And then slide number 14 are the existing elevations. And then I'll go to slide number 15. I'll try to address Mr. Smollen's comments. So as I listed here, the addition is in the rear, and it's at the northwest corner of the existing building, which I think minimizes the impact to the existing building. And it should result in and I'm taking your words from your report, sorry, a low to moderate reduction in historic integrity. So, though unit number 1 is the owner's apartment. The owners are, as I said before, they're longtime Montclair residents. They moved here in the last few years in order to have space for themselves, to have a building where they could age in place, and now space for their grown son. The exterior design and the materials are similar to the existing, so as to be compatible with the existing building. As I said, the addition is to the rear of it at the corner of the existing building, and it should serve as an indication that this is not necessarily an original part of the building. So because it's sort of offset, people should recognize that this was not part of the original building. The location of the addition is subordinate to the existing building, with minimal impact on views of the building from Claremont Avenue. You could partially see the roof of the new addition from a distance, but you really don't see this addition from Claremont Avenue. I stated the existing single window to be removed could be stored for possible future use, but as Alex just stated, it's not one of the decorative windows.
It's equal to the one that you see in the corner. You see that high window?
Yes. So
It's just like one of those.
right. So does everybody see that window there? It doesn't have any divided lights in it. All of the new windows would either be wood or wood-clad windows. The exterior trim on the new addition would be wood or composite, and it would be painted to match the original wood. The original building layout precludes the new Unit 3 entrance being located at the existing Unit 1 entrance at the front of the building. And then we propose to have a planting screen added at the new HVAC unit directly to the west of the new addition. So that concludes my direct testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for,
Thanks.
do you have anything to add?
I mean, I don't know if it's relevant for you guys, but I also have a disabled older sister, and that's why their unit is so big, so they can all be on the first floor of my parents, and there'd be a room for my sister to live in above them.
Okay, thank you. So with that, we'll open it up for questions. Mr. Rooney? Mr. Rooney.
I have no questions.
Ms. Floyd?
One, Stevens Street is where my husband grew up, so that's very nice. Floyd, the Floyd family. You probably know Sue, and we probably are your parents' age. Yeah.
Do you know the
And it's always,
the Jacksons too?
Well, Michael might know. You know. But the other thing is, it's always nice to know parents can age in place. That's something that we really try to support here in Montclair. I literally have one question. You had mentioned an AC unit. Was there an existing one there, or is this one unit covering?
This would cover the new addition.
Just the new addition, so there was one there already?
Well, there's one.
There are two.
There are two there. They're on the
Okay.
east side of the building.
Oh, okay.
There's one on the east side of the building, one in the just directly to the west of the existing building.
Okay, all right, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Pierre?
No.
Mr. Sweeney?
Just want to verify, just you currently live in Unit 1, and your son is going to live in
No, my
Unit?
parents, sorry.
Excuse me?
They're my parents, so my parents are the owners of the property.
Oh, your
I'm the
oh,
son.
okay.
Yep.
He's the son.
Oh, okay, you're the son.
old as I
Okay,
look,
no,
I'm the
thank
son,
you.
yeah.
No, you got that straight. Okay, that was my only question, so now I know. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Graham?
Yeah, no questions, Chair.
I had a question about the height of the addition. Is it higher, is the ridge line higher than the existing roof line of the original, of the house? And you stated that that wasn't, in one of these drawings, let me find it, it looks considerably higher, and I'm just wondering,
It's, if you look on slide 10, it's.
right,
It's not.
and there's three, that's the, those are the skylights. Those are three skylights up
There
there?
are 3 skylights on the rear or south side of the addition roof. Right.
So, but is it higher than, how much higher is, what's the height of the addition as opposed to what's in front of it?
It's, let me grab the drawing. The intent is for the addition to be slightly lower than the main roof of the existing building. I have the benefit of the full-size drawing in front of me. So it's,
So number 4,
Yeah.
page 10, that's really not a,
I think I can clarify. So the roof of the existing building has a kind of lower section to it on the side. And so the addition is equal height to the existing
higher-
building, but there's like a lower part of the roof
separating it.
okay,
next to it.
okay. Oh, I can see it on page 12. And the lighting, is that a lot of, is that like over lighting? I'm just curious. It seems excessive, but if it's a safety issue.
Well, no, we have to comply with the town standards to have 0.5-foot candles throughout that parking area. So basically, we send these to a lighting designer. The lighting designer does a foot candle drawing showing the spread of the lighting throughout the parking area.
Okay.
Yeah, as far as excessive.
It's a lot of
It
lighting.
does seem excessive.
All right, those were my questions. Mr. Smolin, can you go over your report, please?
Sure. So the buildings in the potential Walnut Street Historic District, very likely this would be a contributing resource to that district. And we went through the character-defining features of the building already, so I'm not going to go over that again. The standards from the Secretary of the Interiors that are being applied are, as always, Standard 9, Standard 10, which deals with the reversibility of an addition, but also, I think, Standard 1 here, about a property being used as it was historically, which was as a residence, or being given a new use, which is now a multifamily residence, that requires minimal change to its distinctive materials, features, spaces, and spatial relationships. I think the proposed addition is satisfying all 3 of those standards. We'll talk about Standard 10, though, I think can be a little bit better in a sec. My second comment related to the visualizations, mostly satisfied here. It was probably my mistake not to specify. I think it would be best if the visualizations are from like the public right-of-way, streetscape, in this case, Claremont Ave. But your testimony, Mr. Sionis, I think confirmed that you don't believe the addition will be visible from Claremont Ave. So, moving on, low to moderate reduction in historic integrity. Given that it's not even visible from Claremont Ave, I think I'd even dial that back to a low reduction in historic integrity. The window that sounds like a maybe not so significant casement window, just so that this is a fully reversible addition, I think it would be best that that casement window just kind of be concealed within the wall and not removed and stored and probably lost in a couple years. The windows, material finishes was all addressed during the testimony, and I think comment 9 of mine related to multiple entrances was mostly resolved by the applicant agreeing to relocate the Unit 3 door to the rear facade, which I think, as you look at the building from Claremont Ave, will not appear as a 3-unit building, which I think is appropriate and consistent with that historic district. And we spoke about mechanical screening, so I think this is a fairly de minimis impact to the potential historic district.
Mhm. Any comment? We'll start with comment then. Comment? Steve?
No.
No. But generally in agreement with?
Sure.
Okay. Mike?
Agreed. No real comments other than generally supportive of this application.
And Mr. Sweeney?
Same here, generally supportive.
Yeah. I think Mr. Smolin has addressed the issues that we have, and you've addressed them in kind. So I think moving, you know, we now recommend this, and this goes to the zoning board. So then we don't have any, we don't vote on it, but we just send our recommendations. So I think with tweaking it a little bit, our comments would suffice the historic element of the proposed, of the house in the proposed district.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, no, it looks nice, and I like what you've done with the taking away the pervious pavements and making it a little bit more green, and buffering it with the site, the lot rather, with other trees.
Good, thank you.
Right. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so being that our next recommendation has been postponed to August, we'll move on to discussion. So the reexamination of the historic preservation element 2016, we had a meeting right before this meeting, and we conferred with Janice, and she gave us more insight into what we're supposed to be doing. So we have, I think we know what we're doing now, so we'll certainly keep up with that. The Board of Education letter about Woodman Field, unfortunately, it was Mr. Pond's passing. That letter won't go out to him, but there is an interim superintendent, correct, who was in the paper. So what I'll do is I'll send you my letter, and then we can address it to the interim. Violations, what has anything happened with violations?
My understanding is that the violation on South Fullerton with the restaurant, there's a new restaurant going in there. And
Right.
Richard is working with the tenant in that new restaurant to make sure that those conditions that weren't met are being met by this
good.
restaurant.
Okay, good.
Okay.
So we're working on that. And I believe that we sent a letter to the owner of the house at the corner of North Mountain and Claremont.
31, right.
31. Because he thought he was waiting for us to tell him what to do. And we said, no, we're waiting for you to come back.
Right.
And I haven't heard from him since.
Okay. All right. So those were the two
Yeah.
major
Well, what is the follow-up there then?
Yeah.
If we haven't heard back.
I'm not sure where we go. And I probably have lost where we are. And if you see something that shouldn't be there, that you didn't approve, because I'm not quite sure. I know they put a fence up, they're putting landscaping, they have a play set. I don't
Right.
recall what you approved and what you didn't approve. I know that the issue is still with, and I know one of the other issues was with these exterior stairs. We're now on our 4th construction official, so now that we've got a new full-time construction official, I can bring him in on the stair issue.
And there was a question about a retaining wall on the front of the property going up.
Well, I haven't
seen one.
seen it.
Have you seen one?
No,
Yeah.
but I think we should be proactive rather than reactive.
I think he knows that he
Okay,
needs to come and get approval from
Okay.
you before he can do that.
okay.
It's been like pulling teeth.
No, yes. We realize that, Janice. So the next on the agenda, if we're finished with violation, and what about just small violations? I had sent a couple into the office.
You send them to me, we send them to to Richard and to the code enforcement office.
Okay,
So that's, as far as I know, that's where they are.
okay. So anyone walking around sees violations, you'll get the gist of what we're talking about. That's the procedure. All right?
So maybe we get an update on the minor violations that were forwarded and where they stand?
I couldn't report to you tonight. You'd have.
Oh,
to-
no, that I understand. No, no.
If you-
Well, maybe we could
That's
put a
when I-
request
yeah.
in.
But
Yeah.
if we could
If you
for
let
next
me
meeting,
know- If you let me know,
yeah.
because I'm not even sure which ones they are, before the meeting, I can reach out to the.
Yeah,
That's
anything
a
that was
good point.
referred on, it would be
Right.
nice to
Yeah, to
know if
get-
we need to follow up or not.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And so our final is the Shade Tree Commission, which Ms. Grossman spoke about. So I attended the council meeting in the 4th Ward meeting, and one of the issues which arose is a recommendation to reestablish the Shade Tree Commission in Montclair. Now, when I moved here in the late 80s, it was that we had a Shade Tree Commission, and after doing some research, it appears that it disappeared around the year 2000. I couldn't find out why it was abolished, but it worked out of the Parks Department, and their task was to supervise the shade trees and field questions from residents about mainly taking down trees on their property. At the 2 meetings, the Environmental Commission has reiterated the importance of shade trees and the fact that many are being cut down on private property. Even though we have replacement laws, it appears that a 1-inch versus an established tree just does little to protect from increasing solar heat, which the old shade canopy certainly did. As you know, the mature trees and their contributions to the environment and the benefits to the landscape and streetscapes of Montclair contribute to the historic ambiance of the township and its neighbors. And it's also very important in terms of preservation with the landscaping with these historic buildings. We already have an ordinance, O12-44, which was adopted on June 12, 2012, and which is called the Preservation of Shade Trees. This ordinance would the ordinance that Ms. Grossman spoke about tonight would establish a shade tree commission, would be made up of residents of the community that would then, look at problems and potential problems. And it was really interesting because when I did further research, there are towns next to ours, such as in Verona, has a really extensive shade tree commission, and Glenridge has one as well. And some of the things that they are responsible for, they do an inventory of trees, which I learned that Montclair hasn't done an inventory in, I don't know, for a long time. So there's a complete township shade tree inventory. They give information about what the performance is, what the performance is by species, and they also, there's monies available with the forestry plan to do more intensive, looking for grants and more intensive programs. So my hope is that the commission will agree that we write a letter of support to the council in support of this proposed shade tree ordinance.
Absolutely, be very supportive of that, Chair. I would also just note, one of the committees I was on for the planning board, we reviewed an application where a developer had just chopped down a number of mature trees without permission, and it's very difficult to follow up and to rectify that situation. As you mentioned, even replanting is not sufficient. So I think this is an important endeavor.
And I think it's also important for education for people that are doing work on their properties, that when you put in a pool, it disturbs roots of the old tree. So even though you're not taking down the tree, within 5 years, they're gone, and they just die. I'm sorry, I cut you off, Mr. Sweeney.
No, you didn't cut me off. I just have a different view on it. First, I agree, there should be protection of shade trees and trees. But there are different ways of accomplishing it. In West Orange, we don't have a shade tree commission, but we do have an ordinance that prohibits the cutting down unless it meets certain standards. And the township has a tree forester or a person who enforces the ordinance. That's separate from having a commission. A commission contemplates coming before meetings like this, multiple people to make decisions about whether your tree should be taken down or not. That just adds to, I think, the burdens of people, managing their own properties and development. But absolutely, we value the protection of trees. It's essential, and I think we should be supportive of that. But as to establishing a commission, I don't think that's.
So you're not in favor of writing a letter of support to establish the Shade Tree Commission? Is that?
No, I'm not in support of, but I am in support of having a tight ordinance about protection of.
Well, this is about writing a letter of support. So if you're in the negative, will we look at the majority of people that say to write a letter?
So we can take a vote.
Yes. All right.
I would make a motion to write a letter in support of the Shade Tree Commission.
Commission, okay. Second? Okay, Mr. Pierre?
I know I can't vote, but I would 100% support it.
Okay.
Actually, I think you can vote.
Can I?
Well,
Okay.
yeah,
Because
you're sworn in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought I couldn't vote. No, absolutely, I would support the tree.
And Mr.
Should we do a roll call
Yeah,
considering that?
roll call.
Could we do a roll call vote on that?
Chair Bennett,
Yes.
Vice Chair Graham,
Yes.
Mr. Rooney,
No.
Mr. Sweeney,
No.
Mr. Pierre. Ms. Floyd.
Yes.
And we can note in the letter the vote.
Yes.
The vote count.
Okay. All right, well, with that, is there any other discussion? No?
No, I just, the whole tree thing is always a very serious conflict for me, because, I know we need to move them in order to move our world forward, but at the same time, they've been so rooted and a part of our community for so long, and I think without some sort of management around it, kind of people tend to just chop it down to move their process forward. So I do understand, though, Mr. Sweeney, what you're saying in reference to having that kind of tedious involvement could be a bit trying as well, but.
Well, first of all, we haven't really researched the matter. We haven't looked to see what the ordinances are in Montclair now about cutting down trees. Normally, before we vote on something like that, we at least look into it and have some kind of report on it. It could be that the ordinance in Montclair is inadequate to protect the trees, so that the initiative should be establishing rules in the form of an ordinance and a mechanism for enforcement. The mechanism can be a commission, or it can be an officer, or it could be a code enforcement, it could be a forester. Right now, I would just say we don't know enough on it. That was my position on it, but we've already voted on it, and so.
Yes.
It's a fair point. I would
Yes.
just say, my frustration with that one application colors my view of this issue, and I just, I don't know that there was proper enforcement even after the fact, when those trees were eliminated without any input from the town or its
But the point is, we,
enforcement
as a
officers.
commission here, we enforce the rules applicable towards historic preservation. You gotta get the right rules towards tree preservation before you can do it again, so that's my point, but anyway.
Okay, well,
it's-
thank you. So with that, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Oh, that's unanimous.
Motion.
Second.
Sorry, well, okay.
All in favor?
Aye, all right, thank you, everyone. See you next month, August 22nd. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice meeting.